Imagine being the beautiful daughter of a duke, but your entire life's purpose is just to be used as a breeding mare. Celestia has been married and divorced 4 times because she couldn't fulfill her mission. Now, she is on her 5th husband, Earl Roosevelt, a brutal war hero. But there is a massive problem. The Earl absolutely refuses to touch her. Night after night, he leaves her alone in the bedroom, sparking vicious rumors that she is cursed or infertile. Celestia thinks he despises her. But what she doesn't know is that her cold husband is hiding a dark, twisted secret. He doesn't hate her. He is dangerously obsessed with her. And his refusal to touch her is the only thing keeping his feral instincts in check. This is my 5th political marriage with you who hates me. Rain streaks down the window panes as Celestia watches a carriage pull into the courtyard. A quiet realization settles over her. He's back. The carriage door opens, and Count Rusbert Tristan emerges into the heavy downpour, his expression unreadable in the gloomy night. In her chambers, a new warmth blooms. After a bath, Celestia brushes her long, platinum hair until it shines. A delicate touch of fragrance to her neck completes the ritual. She stands, enveloped in a soft glow, her heart a quiet drum of anticipation for his return. Malicious whispers trail behind Celestia as the maids mock her nightly preparations. She pays them no mind. This is her role as the Duke's only daughter. She opens the door to their chambers, the room steeped in shadow where Count Rusbert Tristan lies. It has been this way every night since their union a month ago. The air grows thick with unspoken hope as her robe slips to the floor. She kneels beside his sleeping form, her hand reaching out, hesitant, a silent prayer for a connection that remains just beyond her grasp. His hand clamps down on her wrist, a sudden, firm grip that shatters the fragile hope in the room. Count Rusbert Tristan's amber eyes snap open, glowing with a fierce light as he demands she leave. His voice echoes through the hall as Celestia retreats, the watching eyes of the maids burning into her back. He shouts that he has no intention of being with her and orders her to her own quarters. Her expression drains of all warmth, leaving only a quiet devastation as she turns and walks away, utterly defeated. Cruel whispers follow Celestia down the hall. The maids call her shameless, gossiping about how her 4 previous separations were rumored to be due to failures in securing the lineage. Now, in her 5th marriage at 24, she carries a painful nickname, the Barren Doll. The word dignity echoes in her mind, but she grits her teeth. She thinks that if feeling shame could help her secure an heir, she would feel it without hesitation. Standing alone before a rain-streaked window, she wonders what is so wrong with simply wanting a family. Celestia's strength gives out, and she sinks to the floor in the vast, empty room. A painful history repeats in her mind. Her 2nd husband's voice echoes, demanding a separation. He calls her a disappointment for being unable to continue the bloodline and flaunting her intelligence, casting her aside when she only tried to help. The 3rd and 4th unions blur into the same painful memory of abandonment. Staring into the darkness, a cold realization washes over her purple eyes. She knows it will all end the same way it always does. The memory returns, sharp and painful. Her father's voice roars, reminding her that she is 24 and still without an heir. His fingers dig into her chin as he spits cruel rumors about her supposed unworthiness. The words hurt, but a deeper numbness protects her heart. He turns his back, leaving her with a single, crushing command: secure the bloodline. Crumpled on the floor, alone in the vast hall, Celestia clings to a desperate hope. All she wants is to fulfill his wish, to have a child and finally live peacefully. It's her one and only wish. Her father's command echoes in her mind, a harsh reminder not to fail again. She steels her resolve, giving up on any hope for love. Anyone will do. Her heels click softly on the polished floor as she steps through the grand doors and into a brightly lit hall. A desperate plea forms in her heart, a silent prayer to be set free from this endless cycle of duty. Before her, a room full of men awaits, the candidates her father has prepared. Each face is a stark reminder of her one, suffocating purpose. Her eyes drift over the sea of dark suits, each man a candidate for her hand. Her gaze pauses on one in particular, a man with dark hair and an intense profile. Count Rusbert Tristan. He was there, she recalls, yet he showed no interest in her whatsoever. A distant memory surfaces, her younger self, small and bandaged, promising to become a woman worthy of her family name. That vow became the sole meaning of her existence. Staring at her reflection, she hardens her heart. Anyone suitable for her house, anyone willing to cherish someone like her, would be fine. A painful memory surfaces from a past marriage. Her then-husband turns his back on her in the cold darkness of their chamber, his voice flat as he says he cannot find solace with her. The silent suffering she endured then steels her resolve now. She decides anyone suitable for her house will be fine. Because of that past, she chose him, Count Rusbert Tristan, to put an end to this cycle for good. His gloved hand envelopes hers, a sudden warmth against her cool skin. He gazes down, his expression an unreadable storm of hidden emotion. In a breathtaking move before the entire court, Count Rusbert Tristan sinks to one knee. He lifts Celestia's hand, the warmth of his touch seeping through her glove as he brings it to his lips. His intense amber gold eyes lock onto hers, a silent, possessive fire burning within them. With a steady voice, Celestia gives her answer. Gladly, he looks up, his response a low, firm promise. I accept. But as their fate is sealed, a cold thought cuts through her resolve. She never imagined that this very choice would bring her the greatest suffering. The grand ballroom buzzes with conversation, but Celestia is led to a separate chamber, instructed to wait until the party is over. The noise of the crowd fades into a thick, expectant silence. She sits across from the man of the hour, his intense amber eyes fixed on her. Breaking the quiet, Celestia speaks with a calm grace, telling Count Roosevelt she is grateful he accepted the proposal. He just watches, his expression unreadable. This is Tristan Roosevelt, a former mercenary who earned his title through his renowned victories in the Great War. Count Rusbert breaks the silence, his voice low. He says that since it's just the two of them, she can drop the stiff formality, asking her to call him like she usually does. Celestia's heart flutters in confusion. The word hangs between them, a mystery she can't place. Hesitantly, she tries a name. Then, Lord Rusbert? The air in the room instantly shifts. His intense amber eyes lock onto hers, a strange, possessive glow flaring within them. Any warmth evaporates, replaced by a chilling tension that steals her breath. A week later, a formal document is signed, sealing their union. An official declares them a couple, and just like that, it's done. For her fifth marriage, there is no grand ceremony, partly because of her history and partly because Count Rusbert didn't want one. Ever since their first tense encounter, he has been cold and distant. A chilling silence hangs between them, a stark contrast to how readily he once agreed to the proposal. The memory only deepens the icy divide as he rises from his seat before her. Celestia watches Count Rusbert turn and walk away, leaving her alone in the cavernous room. A single, painful question haunts her. Did she do something wrong? As an attendant quietly takes his leave, she feels utterly isolated. A small, desperate hope flickers within her heart for their first night as a married couple. She wishes that tonight, he will finally come to her. Elsewhere in the manor, under the same starry sky, Count Rusbert sits alone. His robe is parted, his intense amber eyes fixed on the blade in his hands. He meticulously polishes the steel, his focus absolute and unnerving. Count Rusbert looks up sharply as his door opens. What is it? He asks, his voice low and cold. Celestia stands in the doorway, her platinum hair flowing over a simple nightgown. She apologizes for the sudden visit, her voice soft but determined. She explains that she waited for him in their shared bedroom, but since he never came, she decided to seek him out. With a quiet grace, she glides towards him and sits on the edge of his bed. The space between them crackles as she softly asks, Lord Rusbert, have you already retired? Count Rusbert Tristan's command is as sharp as the weapon in his hand. Get out. Celestia stares, confused. He explains with cold detachment that the master bedroom is not a shared space. It is for her personal use. He insists he is fine with his own room. She softly argues that she can't possibly take a better room than her husband, especially since it's their first night. His patience snaps. I am saying it's fine, he growls, his voice laced with strain. I don't care what night it is. I have no desire to be one with you. The cruel words land, and Celestia's hope shatters. Celestia's voice trembles, insisting that his refusal will cause problems. It's their first night together, and she pleads, at least tonight, please. The air ignites. Silence. Count Rusbert Tristan snarls, his face contorted with a sudden rage. He accuses her of knowing nothing about him, yet daring to speak so casually of their wedding night. He looms over her, his voice dripping with venom as he cruelly mentions her previous husbands, telling her to have some dignity. His words strike her like a physical blow, leaving Celestia frozen in the suffocating silence. Celestia reaches for him in a desperate plea, but Count Rusbert Tristan forcefully pushes her hand away. The sharp sound echoes in the tense silence as she stumbles backward, collapsing onto the bed. He looms over her, his jaw tight with a barely contained fury. Repeating his command for her to get out, he turns his back, presenting a wall of cold resolve. He declares that while she may run the estate as she pleases, he will never share her bed. The finality in his voice leaves no room for hope. Her purple eyes, shimmering with unshed tears, watch him leave. The heavy door clicks shut, a sound of finality that echoes the shattering of her hopes. Left alone, Celestia stands in the empty hallway, the warmth of the room now a distant memory. But inside, the instant the door closes, Count Rusbert Tristan's cold composure breaks. He stumbles forward, a wave of unseen energy swirling around him. He clutches his head, his body trembling with a violent, suppressed force. His hand, adorned with his wedding ring, clenches into a fist, revealing a man tormented by his own actions. The moment he is alone, Count Rusbert Tristan's cold facade shatters. Gritting his teeth, he endures the silent, feverish torment, his amber gold eyes blazing with an agony he can never show her. A fragmented memory flashes through the darkness. A figure in a military uniform stumbles backward. A hand, stained and dark, falls limp. Celestia's purple eyes flutter open as morning light fills the opulent bedroom. She sits up, her platinum blonde hair spilling over the empty sheets beside her. A heavy sadness settles in her heart as she thinks about the past month. In all that time, Count Rusbert has never once allowed her to be in the same room as him, reinforcing the cold, lonely distance that defines their marriage. Celestia remembers her hopeful nightly rituals, bathing in perfumed oils and spending hours on her appearance, all for what she believed was an important night for a married couple. But her efforts were always in vain. Despite her preparations, she was always driven out, left alone in the cold. She reflects that while she has been discarded 4 times before, this is the first time she's been so utterly rejected from the start. She clutches her pillow in anguish, the memory of her pounding heart when he accepted the marriage now a painful echo of her shattered hopes. Whispers echo from the hallway. 2 maids gossip with sly smiles, wondering why the lady stays in her room all day, yet seems so active at night. Celestia overhears their cruel words, her purple eyes filled with a quiet sadness. She realizes the inexperienced staff feels bold enough to disrespect her, mirroring their master's coldness. Resolving to fix this, she decides to ask Count Rusbert to hire a proper tutor. But as his name forms in her thoughts, a memory strikes her, his intense, glowing eyes and a furious voice demanding if she thinks herself so clever. The voices of 2 maids drift from the hall, and Celestia listens, unseen. One maid, Alicia, quietly confesses she is expecting a child. Even after losing the father to an accident, her resolve is firm. She will protect this new life no matter what. Celestia retreats from the doorway, her heart aching. A profound sadness clouds her features, her purple eyes shimmering with unshed tears. The thought is a painful whisper in her soul. I'm envious. She turns away, her hand tightening into a fist, overwhelmed by a longing she cannot escape. A singular, desperate thought consumes Celestia. She wants a family. As a daughter of a ducal house, she knows continuing the lineage is her mission. But more than duty, a warm, gentle vision fills her mind. A peaceful life, cradling a baby with a loving smile. The beautiful daydream shatters, replaced by the cold, dark memory of Count Rusbert's furious gaze. His cutting words echo, questioning if she has no dignity. Celestia trembles, her hand clenching her dress. This isn't about desire. Their nights together are just a painful, difficult necessity to secure an heir. Celestia sits on the edge of the bed, her resolve a fragile shield against the memories that flood her mind. Count Rusbert turns his back, his voice cutting through the air. That's enough. His cruel words echo, calling her boring, questioning her effort, his sharp voice asking if she has any pride. A tremor runs through her, but her head lifts. She clutches her nightgown, her purple eyes blazing with a desperate fire. If this isn't enough for him, then what exactly is she supposed to do? Celestia's hands twist into the bedsheets, knuckles white with strain as a desperate plea breaks from her lips. Tell me how, she begs, her voice cracking as she repeats the words, demanding an answer. She calls out again, hey, but the sound is swallowed by the suffocating silence of the room. A single tear escapes and traces a path down her cheek as she collapses onto the mattress, overwhelmed. Her Her long platinum hair spills across the pillows as a final, whispered plea for someone fades into the crushing loneliness of the night. A servant approaches, presenting Celestia with a folder. A delivery has arrived from the Royce family, he announces. Celestia accepts it, her eyes scanning the contents. It is the investigation report she ordered on Count Rusbert Tristan. His photograph is clipped to the document, his handsome face looking back at her. She reads that the rumor of his closeness to the prince is true and notes his impressive military record. As her finger traces the line stating he first made a name for himself 6 years ago, a blinding flash fills her vision. Her purple eye widens. The report states Count Rusbert Tristan hails from F's village. A sudden jolt rocks Celestia as a dark memory surfaces. This village, it's a place that no longer exists on any map. A hunt for a revolutionary army 14 years ago flashes through her mind, a vision of fire and crossed blades. The leader of that royal army faction, the one responsible, was none other than her own father. The devastating truth crashes down on her. His entire homeland was erased from history because of her family. A hollow laugh escapes Celestia as the paper crumples in her hand. The pieces click into place, forming a dreadful picture. A memory flashes, the party where they met, a spectral chain of obligation linking them. He was there because of a royal recommendation, unable to refuse when chosen by a duke's daughter. A wine glass shatters in her mind, red spilling out like a confession. Tears stream down her face as the weight of it all crushes her. She chose a man whose life her family ruined, a man who must utterly despise her. In a softly lit room, Celestia's quill drifts across the page, her expression calm as she commits her thoughts to paper. Elsewhere, Count Rusbert Tristan sits at an opulent dining table. An aide confirms that Celestia has remained in her room all day, just as she has for the past month. A slow, knowing smirk crosses Rusbert's face. He thinks to himself that it's almost as if she's doing it to spite him. Lifting his teacup, he dismisses the matter coldly, saying, "Whatever. Let her isolate herself as she pleases. I head out to war tomorrow," Count Rusbert Tristan says, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. "I can finally go back to my true calling." Just then, the grand dining room door clicks open. Celestia stands in the entrance, a vision in the warm light, her purple eyes locking onto his. "Excuse me," she says, her voice cool and steady. She glides across the room, her presence filling the sudden, tense silence. Stopping before him, the air crackles between them. Soon, they are seated in armchairs, facing each other across a small table. Celestia asks for a moment of his time, her expression unreadable as she slides a document across the table. Count Rusbert Tristan picks it up, a faint smirk on his lips as he asks what it is. She calmly explains it's part of a background investigation she conducted before their marriage. His casual demeanor vanishes, his amber eyes widening in shock. "I have found out that your hometown is F's village," she says, her gaze unwavering. "And because of knowing that, I was able to learn why you despise people like me." The charged silence is broken as Rusbert places the paper down. "You're exactly right," he admits, his voice low and heavy. Count Rusbert Tristan leans forward, his amber eyes narrowing as he asks if she discovered anything else. "Yes," Celestia confirms, her voice steady. She explains that a proposal backed by the royalty was an order, not a choice. One he couldn't refuse even if he never wanted to marry her, let alone start a family. Confusion flickers across his face. "What are you talking about?" The air crackles with an unspoken heat. Celestia's heart pounds, but her expression is resolved. "Let's end this union." His eye flashes with a strange light as she calmly slides the prepared paperwork across the table. Celestia calmly explains she has already filled out the necessary documents. Her voice is steady, her expression resigned as she tells him she's used to it. "Please decide the conditions as you please," she offers, explaining that all she needs is his signature. The quiet shatters. With a sudden, violent motion, Count Rusbert Tristan slams his hand down on the table. His amber eyes burn with a furious, possessive light as he snarls, his voice a low growl, questioning who would possibly agree to his separation. He seizes the papers and rips them apart, scattering the pieces before Celestia's wide, shocked eyes. "Never show me these documents ever again," Count Rusbert Tristan commands, his voice a raw growl that vibrates with an unsettling heat. Celestia can only watch, stunned, as the shredded remnants of her proposal flutter down onto the polished table. The fury seems to drain from him, replaced by a tormented look. He sinks into his chair, covering his face with a hand before looking at her with stormy, accusatory eyes. He asks if this is all because he refused to share her bed. Celestia is lost. The separation was supposed to be a golden opportunity for him. Why is he fighting it? A cold shock ripples through Celestia. He truly believes the rumors. Her heart feels heavy as she interrupts his cruel suggestion. "That's enough," she says, her voice regaining its composure, now laced with ice. She tells him to do as he wishes with the documents, but makes a solemn promise. She will be ready for any proposal he initiates. Turning her back on him, she walks away with quiet dignity. The door slams shut, the sound echoing through the room, leaving Count Rusbert Tristan alone in the suffocating heat of their confrontation. Alone in the suffocating silence, Count Rusbert Tristan runs a hand through his dark hair, his amber gold eyes burning with a tormented frustration. His gaze lands on a war summons, a constant reminder of his duty. He reasons that by the time he returns from the battlefield, Celestia will have found other amusements. He pictures her surrounded by the luxuries of a noble woman, parties, elegant dresses, and fine jewelry. It is his burden, he believes, to fight and earn the wealth to provide these things for her, completely unaware that she lies alone, covering her eyes in silent despair. The dust settles in Celestia's silent room, a testament to her profound isolation now that the servants no longer visit. While Count Rusbert Tristan rides off to war, a baffling stream of luxurious gifts begins to arrive for her: gleaming jewelry, rich fabrics, and delicate perfumes. Celestia stares at the treasures, her heart aching with confusion. She cannot decipher the message behind his actions. The contradiction is overwhelming. He clearly despises her, and yet he refuses to grant her freedom, trapping her in a gilded cage of misery and doubt. A sudden, cold realization washes over Celestia. That's it. Across the hall, she sees the maids, their cruel smirks and vile whispers confirming her darkest fears. She begins to wonder if their constant disdain is also part of his retaliation. The thought sends her spiraling, her body sinking back onto the bed in defeat. Trapped without a separation, she can never remarry, and time is slipping away. A single tear escapes as she marvels at the sheer perfection of his vengeance. If this is his revenge, it's truly a masterful stroke. Soldiers cheer for Count Rusbert Tristan, hailing another magnificent victory. He stands impassive, his armor stained from the recent conflict. A fellow officer watches, thinking how marriage has not softened him. His strength is sharper than ever. But he also senses a strange irritability simmering beneath his commander's cold exterior, wondering if it's because he's a newlywed away from home. The officer approaches. "I'll take care of the aftermath," he says, urging him. "Please, go back to your wife. You are newlyweds, after all." Count Rusbert Tristan gives a clipped, reluctant agreement. He turns, his armored boots striking the ground with heavy finality. He doesn't want to go back. His mind echoes with harsh thoughts, that the very sight of that woman irritates him, that her presence is unbearably unpleasant. And yet, a memory surfaces, soft and warm, of a delicate hand held within his own. He clenches his fist, a storm brewing behind his stoic expression. He looks toward the grand mansion on the horizon, his home, where maids already scurry through the halls, anticipating the master's return. The mansion buzzes with activity, and a single thought crosses Celestia's mind. She finds Count Rusbert Tristan already seated at the dining table, his meal before him. "Welcome home," she says softly. He gives a clipped, dismissive yes, without looking up. Celestia remains standing beside him, the silence between them heavy and charged. He finally glances at her, his expression cold. "What is it?" She explains she is only waiting to visit his room after he eats, but his patience snaps. His hand tightens into a fist. "Being stared at ruins my appetite," he says, his voice sharp. "Speak now. There's something you need to confirm?" The air grows thick with unspoken words as Celestia lays out her understanding of their marriage. She states plainly that he doesn't care what she does, will never seek her touch, and yet refuses to end their union. Looking directly at Count Rusbert Tristan, she asks if her assumptions are correct. His amber gold eyes narrow, his confirmation a cold, sharp yes. He challenges her with a dismissive, "So what?" Celestia's resolve hardens. She turns, her departure swift and silent. With his rejection echoing in her mind, she decides she no longer needs to bear his air. Celestia escapes the chilling silence of the dining room, but her mind finds no peace. A memory surfaces, a letter from her mother, its words wrapping around her like silken chains. An invitation to a masquerade ball comes with a pointed suggestion. The memory burns hotter, her mother's voice echoing a desperate command to learn the art of allure. An image of masked figures in a close embrace, surrounded by thorny roses, flashes in her mind. A harsh lesson on how not to be forsaken by a husband again. The heat of shame and duty rises within her. Her parting words, "I don't need your air anymore," reverberate through the heavy silence. A storm gathers in Count Rusbert Tristan's intense amber gold eyes. His stoic facade shatters. In a single, explosive motion, he lunges from his seat. The blade he was holding clatters loudly against the polished floor, its metallic ring echoing through the grand room. He bolts forward, a raw, desperate cry tearing from his throat. Seals. The household staff freezes, their faces pale with shock as he rushes past them, leaving a wake of stunned silence. Count Rusbert Tristan's voice cracks with urgency as he demands to know where Celestia is. He needs to speak with her immediately, but a maid quietly informs him that she left a short while ago. The scene shifts to a lavish masquerade ball, glittering with masked nobles. Celestia stands among them, a vision in a deep red gown, her face concealed. She steels her resolve, knowing she can no longer rely on him. This is a place for anonymous connections, and she understands its purpose. There is no more time to persuade those who despise her. Her resolve hardens behind the ornate mask. She no longer cares about the father, only that the child might resemble her husband. She vows to dedicate her entire life to making that child happy. A man with a knowing smile approaches and takes her hand. His touch is a silent question, and her stillness is the answer. He leads her from the glittering ballroom into the quiet warmth of a private chamber. As long as she is blessed with a child, she thinks anything is fine. A sad smile touches her lips. After all, there's no one who would love Celestia anyway. Celestia lies back, her eyes closed as the masked man leans over her. This is just a painful, necessary act, she tells herself, a means to an end. She silently pleads for it to be over quickly, to grant her the future she so desperately needs. Suddenly, a deafening crash shatters the quiet. The chamber door flies open with violent force. Startled, Celestia and her companion freeze. "What was that noise?" she whispers, her heart pounding. A formidable silhouette fills the doorway. It is Count Rusbert Tristan, his fists clenched as an aura of pure fury radiates from him. Count Rusbert Tristan's amber gold eyes burn with a furious, crimson light. The air crackles around him. Panicked, the proprietor begs for forgiveness, insisting this is a proper establishment. Before the words can register, Celestia's masked companion is sent flying backward with a cry of terror. Her delicate blue mask clatters to the floor, cracked and useless. Celestia sits up, clutching her red dress as she stares at the formidable figure. "Lord Rusbert," she whispers in disbelief. He remains silent, his jaw tight as he glares, a storm of possessive fury building. Celestia looks up at Count Rusbert Tristan, his intense gaze holding her captive. A sudden, chilling image flashes in her mind. Rusbert standing in full armor on a grim battlefield, the fearsome, war-mad count. The realization makes her clutch at her dress. The atmosphere becomes heavy as Rusbert turns, his shadow falling over the man cowering on the floor. "Did you touch that woman?" he asks, his voice dangerously quiet. The man stammers a denial, but Rusbert looms closer. "Where did you touch her?" he demands, grabbing the man's collar. Count Rusbert Tristan's voice drops to a menacing whisper, his grip tightening. "Did you dare to dishonor her?" he asks, his amber gold eyes glowing with a terrifying light. He demands an answer, his tone leaving no room for defiance. "Right now?" From the bed, Celestia watches, her mind reeling in confusion. Why is he here? Her heart hammers against her ribs as she recalls his cold words, that it didn't matter what she did. Suddenly, Rusbert turns his head slightly. "Hey." The single word hangs in the air before a sharp, decisive sound cuts through the silence, making Celestia flinch. Strong arms suddenly sweep Celestia into the air. She gasps, looking up into Count Rusbert Tristan's intense amber gold eyes as he holds her securely. Her cheeks flush, her mind reeling with confusion. "We're leaving," he announces, his tone final. He carries her from the room without a backward glance, striding toward a waiting carriage. As the carriage begins to move, jostling through the darkness, Celestia leans back against the seat. His actions clash with his cold words. A painful thought echoes in her mind. He said he didn't even want to touch her. The warmth from his arms envelopes Celestia as the carriage rumbles on. Count Rusbert Tristan's voice is low. Are you hurt? Stunned by the unexpected concern, she shakes her head no. He turns away with a simple, I see. Her mind races, trying to understand him. Suddenly, the journey ends, and he unceremoniously drops her onto a plush bed. Pushing herself up, her confusion sharpens into defiance as she looks up at him. What exactly are you trying to do? She demands. I assume you've already confirmed it. Count Rusbert Tristan's voice is low and sharp. If I hadn't come to the ball, no one would have known it was you. Celestia's defiance flares, and she challenges him about the possibility of securing an heir. In an instant, he lunges forward, seizing her wrist. So you have no intention of revealing the father? He demands, his voice tight with accusation. He leans over her, their faces inches apart, the air crackling with heat. His amber eyes burn into hers as he admits he never meant to touch her. The thought of his wife being with another man fills Count Rusbert Tristan's expression with dark possessiveness. Let's overwrite everything, he declares, his voice dangerously low. He leans closer, his breath ghosting over Celestia's skin as he demands to know which ear the man whispered into. She flinches, her mind reeling in confusion. He had refused their wedding night. So why this sudden, intense focus? He continues his interrogation, asking which shoulder the man held. Frustrated by her silence, he makes a decision. Then I'll take both. A sharp gasp escapes Celestia's lips. Count Rusbert Tristan pulls Celestia against his chest, his embrace possessive and unyielding. Never even think about going to another man again, he commands, his voice a low vibration against her skin. A dizzying heat floods Celestia's body, a deep blush rising to her cheeks as she breathes out his name. But the moment shatters. Rusbert's expression turns to ice, his amber eyes sharp with contempt. He looks down at her, his voice cutting through the warmth as he asks if she's really that desperate for intimacy. He questions if it even matters who it is with, a total stranger or him. Panic floods Celestia's mind as his cruel words echo. At this rate, she feels she is going to perish. A single tear traces a path down her temple as she stares up at Count Rusbert Tristan, her voice a desperate whisper. She asks him why. Why has he become like this? His own voice is thick with unspeakable sorrow as he asks why she became such a woman of rumors. But to Celestia's shock, tears stream down his face, his expression one of pure agony. A memory of a smiling boy flashes in his mind. He questions everything. What has he been doing all this for? Lying back, Celestia's mind spins in confusion. She wonders, her heart aching. Her voice is a fragile whisper as she calls out to Count Rusbert Tristan, trying to understand his sudden sorrow. But the fragile connection shatters. The tears vanish from his eyes, replaced by an icy resolve. He pushes her away and turns his back, his voice flat and cold as he commands her to change clothes and return to her room. With a resounding thud, the door slams shut, leaving Celestia utterly alone. Alone in her room, Celestia processes the shocking sight. It was the first time she had ever seen Count Rusbert Tristan cry. The memory floods her mind. Him collapsed on the floor, his broad shoulders shaking with silent sobs. He looked as vulnerable as a small child, so unbearably broken. A strange, unfamiliar warmth spreads through her. She instinctively clutches the fabric over her heart as it constricts with an ache she can't quite understand, a feeling that steals her breath away. Count Rusbert collapses onto the training ground, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He's tormented by the harsh truths he just spoke, questioning why he ever said such a thing. He is consumed by the thought of her complicated past, feeling sure that she must have wiped him from her memory completely. A vision of Celestia fills his mind, her back turned as she walks into a pure, white light. He whispers her name, Seals. The scene suddenly snaps to a dark room where a boy shouts, Ruth, what's wrong? A much younger Rusbert looks up, his face streaked with tears and frozen in terror. The memory sharpens. A young Rusbert, his face streaked with tears, explains that he tripped and fell. His companion, a bright-eyed boy named Seals, breaks into a wide, relieved smile. He gently dabs Rusbert's cheek with a cloth, playfully calling him clumsy. With a sudden burst of energy, Seals grabs his hand, pulling him along. He points toward the sky, insisting they go to the highest rooftop. The scene melts into another moment of pure joy as they run through a sunlit street, hand in hand, Seals shouting encouragement. The happy memory dissolves, leaving a young Rusbert standing alone in a dusty street. He whispers his friend's name. Seals left? An older woman rests her hands on his shoulders, her face full of pity. She explains that a grand carriage from the kingdom arrived unexpectedly that morning. It belonged to the house of Duke Royce, and they took seals with them. The woman's final words deliver a stunning blow. His friend is actually Lady Celestia. Roosbert's world tilts. Seals was a girl, a noble. His amber gold eyes widen in disbelief, recalling one crucial detail. She despised nobles. The memory twists into a nightmare of fire and chaos. Flames devour the village as desperate shouts fill the night. It's the kingdom's army. Someone screams. A man realizes with horror that the Royce family intends to burn everything, erasing all traces of Celestia's past life. Young Roosbert sprints through the inferno until he collapses against a wall, smoke stinging his lungs. A sharp voice cuts through the din, and a guard stammers an apology to Duke Royce. Roosbert's wide, amber eyes look up, seeing the man responsible for the devastation standing before his grand carriage. Duke Royce leans from the carriage window, his face twisted in a sneer as he hurls an insult at a peasant below. The scene flashes through a young Roosbert's mind, a chaotic memory of running through the streets. He spots a familiar face in a carriage window, and his world stops. Seals? He whispers in disbelief, staring at the girl in fine clothes. Her expression is utterly vacant. The shock freezes him in place. It doesn't matter that she's a woman. More importantly, he wonders how she can be so cold. Her eyes are like ice. A tremor runs through young Roosbert as the horrifying truth settles in his mind. The girl in the carriage isn't the Seals he knows. Rage burns away his despair. He concludes it's all that man's fault. The Duke stole Celestia and destroyed their village. A fire ignites in his amber eyes, hardening his expression with a new, unshakable purpose. He makes a solemn vow to save her. This single promise drives him. He grows, joins the military, and fights relentlessly. Every victory is just a means to an end, to become stronger and someday take Celestia back. Years of relentless fighting bring Count Roosbert Tristan to this moment. After pleading with his captain, he finally steps into the Royce family's grand ballroom, his amber eyes scanning the opulent hall. He searches for only one person. From a balcony high above, a voice rings out, announcing the betrothal of the Duke's daughter, Celestia. Roosbert's gaze snaps upward. He sees her standing beside another man, and his world stops. A sharp crack echoes in the stunned silence as the wine glass shatters in his grip, hope splintering with it. Malicious whispers drift through the ballroom, reaching Count Roosbert Tristan. Men nearby murmur about Celestia, her 4 failed marriages, and the scandalous reasons behind each separation. They paint her as a woman with insatiable appetites. A muscle in Roosbert's jaw tightens, his composure cracking under the weight of their words. He already knows the rumors. Looking at the distant, elegant figure, a painful realization hardens his heart. This isn't the Seals he once knew. He feels certain that she has completely forgotten him. Count Roosbert Tristan's fist tightens, his knuckles white with resolve. The vicious rumors about Celestia's supposed desires, how she casts aside any man who fails to please her, echo in his memory. He scoffs at the thought, a dark fire igniting in his amber eyes. He refuses to be discarded. A chilling vision fills his mind. Celestia, trapped within a gilded cage entwined with thorns. He makes a silent, possessive vow. He will keep her forever by denying her the very intimacy she supposedly craves, ensuring she can never grow bored of him. Count Roosbert Tristan grits his teeth, his expression twisting in agony. He makes a silent, dark vow that she will pay the price for betraying his life. The quiet click of a lock breaks the silence as he opens a small safe. His gaze falls upon a folded cloth, and a memory, warm and bright, floods his mind. He sees a younger Celestia, her smile gentle as she cared for him. The girl he once loved. The vision fades, replaced by cold reality. He snatches the cloth and slams the safe door shut. Sudden commotion echoes through the grand hall. Count Roosbert Tristan appears, his expression a mask of fury as he shouts for the carriage to be prepared immediately. A butler tries to intervene, mentioning an urgent notice from the Duke, but Roosbert declares that his errand takes absolute precedence. News travels quickly to the Duke's estate. An aide bursts in, announcing the Count's unexpected arrival. The Duke's first concern is for his daughter, asking if Celestia is with him. The air grows cold as the aide confirms the worst. Roosbert is alone, and he is in a terrible rage. The Duke's composure shatters, his hand shooting through his hair in a panic. He immediately wonders what Celestia has done to provoke such a reaction. He knows Count Roosbert is more than a simple noble. He's a national hero, a man held in high regard by the king himself. In the tense silence of the room, Rusbert's hand crashes down onto the desk. His intense amber gold eyes fix on the Duke, his expression a mask of fury. He demands an explanation, his voice dangerously calm. "Even if you're her father," he states, "now, she is my wife." Count Rusbert Tristan's voice drops, dangerously low. He asks how the Duke could suggest a place for indiscretion, a stain on the family's honor, his hand resting on a blade. The Duke insists it's a misunderstanding, leaning in to confide that Celestia consulted him about an embarrassing matter, their wedding night. He smirks, suggesting Rusbert must now realize Celestia is merely a dull woman who makes a man lose interest. A memory of their intimacy flashes, her vulnerability a stark contrast to her father's dismissive, cold words. The Duke leans forward with a condescending smile, asking if Rusbert is aware of Celestia's lackluster cold nature behind closed doors. He dismisses her as an unresponsive doll, explaining that her failure to produce an heir is the reason for her past separations. He insists she's never satisfied, always discarding men. As he speaks, a memory of their shared warmth flashes through Rusbert's mind, Celestia's flushed cheeks, a moment of deep connection. The Duke's cold words are a harsh contrast. Rusbert looks down, his expression unreadable. "I understand the situation," he says softly. Count Rusbert Tristan's amber gold eyes flash with a dangerous light. He commands the Duke to stop filling Celestia's head with his ideas, reminding him that their life is a private matter between husband and wife. He rises from his seat, his imposing figure casting a shadow over the Duke. While the man remains her father, Rusbert's voice drops, filled with possessive heat. "But now, she is Celestia." The Duke's smug expression falters, replaced by a flicker of fear. With a final, sharp bow, Rusbert departs, leaving him stunned. The Duke touches his chin, his mind racing to understand. Why would a man like Count Rusbert Tristan go to such lengths for Celestia? The intensity feels less like affection and more like an obsession. He leans back with a dismissive smirk, deciding her time has likely passed. Regardless, even without a daughter, he reminds himself that he still has other options. A nearby door creaks open, but the Duke forgets who he is dealing with. The man they call the War-Mad Count, a fearsome title earned through staggering military achievements in countless battles. In the quiet of her room, Celestia pores over documents detailing Count Rusbert Tristan's history. She traces his rapid ascent to power and reads about the fearsome title he earned, the War-Mad Count. A memory of his intense gaze as he leaned over her flashes through her mind, leaving her heart unsettled. She wonders what his purpose was, wishing she could understand his words from the night before. A gentle knock interrupts her thoughts. A maid enters with a letter, asking if the master has returned yet. Celestia glances towards the window. It is already night. The maid explains that Count Rusbert Tristan arrived at dusk, but left again almost immediately. Celestia's eyes widen in disbelief. That was the exact moment she had dozed off. She presses the maid, asking about his demeanor. The servant hesitates, then recounts how he seemed to be in a terrible rage and demanded a carriage. A sudden request had come, and now he has departed for the battlefield, not to return for some time. The news sends a chill through Celestia as she clenches her dress, her worst fears confirmed. She blames herself for missing her chance. Celestia reluctantly accepts a stack of letters from the maid. As she sifts through the envelopes, she feels a sense of hopelessness, thinking that nothing is going right. She finds a party invitation, a duty she must now fulfill as his wife. But then, another document stops her cold. Her eyes widen in stunned disbelief as she reads the title, Adoption Papers. While she sits frozen by this shocking discovery, the scene flashes to a distant battlefield. Count Rusbert Tristan stands triumphant over his fallen foes, his soldiers cheering for their conquering hero. Amidst a captured hoard of treasure, a soldier remarks that they should inform the Count of such a magnificent find. Count Rusbert Tristan remains silent, his attention captured by a single, brilliant purple gem. He lifts the stone, and for a moment, an image of Celestia's eyes flashes in his mind. The color is a perfect match. Another man comments that Captain Rusbert never had much interest in jewels. No, Rusbert agrees, clenching the gem tightly in his gloved hand. A slow, possessive smile touches his lips as he adds, but it wouldn't make a bad souvenir. In the gilded ballroom, where parties are a noble's duty, a woman approaches Celestia with a look of surprise. "How rare to see you," she remarks. Celestia offers a polite smile, explaining she now bears the responsibility as the wife of House Tristan and was curious about the event. Suddenly, the host's voice rings out, thanking the assembled guests. He gestures beside him, his voice filled with pride as he announces, "Allow me to introduce my son, Carl." A young boy with bright, innocent eyes and flushed cheeks looks up at the crowd. Applause ripples through the ballroom as the host announces the boy is their newly adopted son. Celestia watches the happy family, a powerful longing blooming within her. She pictures herself beside Rusbert, a smiling child holding their hands, and a warmth spreads through her chest at the hopeful image. A new resolve takes root. She had only ever considered an heir of her own blood, but realizes now that lineage doesn't define a family. Months later, a sudden cry rings out from a bustling street. It's Lord Rusbert. A crowd begins to gather. Cheers erupt as Count Rusbert Tristan rides into the city, the victorious war hero home again. His captain approaches with a plan to handle the troops, kindly urging Rusbert to go home and spend time with his wife. Rusbert agrees, but his expression hardens as his thoughts drift. He longs for the simple freedom of life at the garrison before his marriage. His mind darkens, recalling the strict orders he gave the staff to watch her closely for any sign of another man. And he wonders with detached coldness if that woman has found a hobby. A memory drifts through Count Rusbert Tristan's mind, a past payment made in shimmering jewels. He remembers Celestia's soft voice admitting she couldn't tell which ones were truly valuable. The image fades, leaving him standing on a bustling street, searching for a gift. His gaze sweeps over a flower stall, then to passing couples. He considers accessories, a dress, even a pet, but dismisses each thought. What would she do with an animal? He concludes the jewels are best. If she dislikes them, she can simply sell them for money. Count Rusbert Tristan's footsteps echo as he enters the grand hall. He immediately asks an aide about that woman, receiving a swift report that she remains under constant watch. Across the polished floor, Celestia stands waiting, her purple eyes filled with a quiet sadness as she welcomes him home. He ignores the greeting, his voice cold as he announces his return to the garrison for the next day. He extends a small pouch, telling her it was an extra payment from a client. "Sell it, or do as you please," he says dismissively. Celestia accepts with a quiet thank you, but his intense gaze locks onto hers. However, he begins, his expression hardening. Celestia's heart quickens, but she meets his intense gaze, asking for a moment of his time before he leaves again. Seeing his sharp look, she quickly clarifies her intent. It isn't intimacy she seeks, but simply to share a meal, suggesting breakfast since he must have barely had time to eat. The next morning, they sit in silence on a sun-drenched balcony. He watches her over his plate, questioning the sudden change in her behavior. Celestia is just as bewildered. Sharing a meal together for the very first time, a fragile seed of hope sprouts within her. The gentle morning air grows still. Celestia breaks the silence, her voice soft as she asks to speak with Count Rusbert Tristan. She mentions an interesting program from a recent party, sliding a formal document across the table toward him. The paper, detailing an adoption system, lands between them. Instantly, the atmosphere chills. A dark shadow falls over Rusbert's expression as Celestia explains that many noble houses have done this. His internal thoughts rage. He cannot endure a life with any more strangers in it, a silent, desperate vow to keep her entirely to himself. The word stranger echoes in Celestia's mind, a cold realization washing over her. To him, that's all she is. She tries to object, explaining that an adopted child would be theirs, but Rusbert cuts her off. His hand slams down on the table, the sound cracking the morning stillness. "It's the same thing," he seethes, his amber eyes blazing with a possessive fire. He leans forward, a silent war raging within him, unwavering. Celestia points out that he is hardly ever home, always preparing to leave for the next battlefield. Celestia's voice is steady, her eyes wide as she asks if her plan would still be a problem. She promises not to trouble him, vowing to raise the child alone. A warm, sunlit dream of maternal affection fills her mind. But for Rusbert, the same thought summons a desolate, painful memory of being left behind, forever an outsider. The past chill twists into raw fury. He roars that this is his estate, his authority absolute. His amber gold gaze turns sharp and possessive as he leans in, his voice a low threat. Or what? His voice drops, sharp and possessive. He asks if she has a hidden child she's been waiting to bring home. The accusation steals the air from Celestia's lungs, and tears well in her eyes at the painful fantasy. As he presses forward, Demanding to know if he's wrong, she stumbles back. Her body tips precariously over the balcony railing. A gasp escapes her lips as she begins to fall, only for a powerful arm to seize her waist, pulling her back against his unyielding chest. A blush blooms across her face. A tremor runs through Celestia's hand as the weight of her action crashes down. Her purple eyes widen in disbelief, her mind screaming, "What have I done?" While servants flurry around Count Rusbert Tristan, their voices filled with alarm, she stumbles backward and sinks to her knees. The world narrows to the cold floor beneath her as she bows deeply, completely separated from the commotion. Overwhelmed with regret, she offers a desperate, broken apology, her voice choked with sorrow as she begs for his forgiveness. Celestia's vision swims, each breath a painful struggle as she remains on the cold ground, whispering apologies. Panic grips her. Count Rusbert Tristan looks down, his expression hardening into a mask of cold resolve. That settles it, he thinks. He commands her not to step into his room tonight, adding that he will be stationed at the garrison until the next battle. Without another glance, he turns his back and walks away. As his figure recedes into the distance, a sudden rain begins to fall, drenching Celestia as she stays collapsed, utterly alone. 1 week passes. Celestia remains confined to her room, a prisoner to her thoughts as Count Rusbert Tristan stays away at the garrison. A feverish regret consumes her. She can't believe her own hot-headed actions. A chilling fear grips her. Will she be left to perish alone? Clutching a pillow, her mind races with desperate questions. How can she earn his forgiveness, prevent their union from dissolving, and fulfill her duty? As tears streak her face, a soft voice cuts through the overwhelming silence, calling her name. Lady Celestia. A young maid enters the room, her voice trembling as she excuses her intrusion. She explains that the master sent her to deliver a package, telling Celestia she may use it as she pleases. The maid's gaze falls on a vase of wilting flowers, and she nervously offers to replace them. As she reaches out, her hand falters and the vase slips, shattering against the floor. The maid flinches, apologizing in a frantic rush. But Celestia just watches her, her expression softening with a quiet understanding as she remembers the maid's hidden tragedy. Don't touch it. Celestia's sharp command stops the maid in her tracks. Flinching, the young woman looks terrified, but Celestia's voice softens. She assures the maid someone else will handle the broken glass and asks for her name. The maid hesitantly replies, Alicia Badentier. A flicker of recognition crosses Celestia's features. After confirming where Alicia is from, Celestia's demeanor turns cold and distant. She dismisses the maid, telling her to pack her things and leave the mansion immediately. Alicia collapses in shock, desperately pleading for forgiveness. Tears stream down Alicia's face as she rests a hand on her pregnant belly, reminding Celestia that she will soon have a child. The cold facade crumbles from Celestia's expression. She gently takes the maid's hands, pressing a handful of brilliant jewels from the package into her palm. She explains this is enough to live without hardship for years. Alicia stammers, overwhelmed by the kindness. Looking at the young maid with profound empathy, Celestia urges her to think only of her child, assuring her that what she is about to accomplish is precious. Tears of gratitude well in Alicia's eyes as she says she doesn't know how to repay such kindness. Celestia assures her it's not necessary, but then makes a quiet, hesitant request if she might touch the maid's belly. Alicia readily agrees. As Celestia gently rests a hand on the swell, her expression softens. A sudden kick from within makes her purple eyes widen in wonder. Alicia smiles warmly, certain the child is showing its thanks. A serene, wistful peace settles over Celestia as she feels the precious life stir beneath her palm. A single tear traces a path down Celestia's cheek as a bittersweet smile touches her lips. She gently pulls her hand back, ending the warm, precious moment. That's enough for now, she says softly, urging the maid to hide the jewels well. As she guides Alicia toward the door, the young maid suddenly turns back, grabbing Celestia's hands with fierce determination. She passionately vows to return after her child is born, promising to become Celestia's strength. So please, Alicia begs, her voice thick with emotion, take care and stay well. Celestia's purple eyes soften as she clasps the maid's hands, her voice a gentle whisper. All right. You too. Take care of yourself. She watches from her window as a carriage carries her new friend away, a serene smile on her face as she sends a silent prayer for a safe delivery. Turning back to the quiet room, Her gaze falls upon a table where two envelopes rest. She recognizes one as the usual invitation, but the other, a dark purple missive, makes her breath catch. Her fingers tremble slightly as she picks it up. It's from her father. Celestia's breath hitches as her purple eyes scan the cruel words. Her father is remarrying a woman who has already given him an heir. The letter is not just an invitation, but a command. She must attend with Count Rusbert to lend prestige to the event. This, her father declares, is her final role. Afterwards, she is to be cast aside, completely severed from the family. The world shatters around her. A table crashes to the floor as her legs give way. The letter flutters beside her, its final words burning into her soul. You are no longer needed. The mansion doors crash open, and the staff cries out in shock. Count Rusbert Tristan storms inside, carrying Celestia's unconscious body. Desperation is etched onto his face as he bellows for a doctor, his voice cracking with panic. He orders his staff to spare no expense, to drag a physician here if they must. As he commands the maids to prepare her, one tries to warn him about what's in Celestia's room. Her plea is cut short by a booming voice commanding silence, ordering everyone to hold Celestia still as the door clicks shut and locks behind him. Count Rusbert Tristan scans the darkened room, his voice a low growl as he demands the person who harmed Celestia to reveal themselves. His amber eyes, burning with righteous fury, sweep across the space. But his rage freezes, replaced by a wave of confusion. The room is in disarray. Clothes are strewn over furniture, and a tray of cold, leftover food sits on a small table. He wonders why her room is in such a state. Glancing back at the trembling maids, he realizes with a frustrated click of his tongue, there are no signs of an intruder. Count Rusbert Tristan's confusion hardens into cold disbelief. There are no signs of an intruder, only profound neglect. He questions what has happened to this room, remembering it as pristine not long ago. This level of filth is not the work of a single week. He questions if this can even be called living like a noble. As his gaze shifts to the trembling maids, they stammer apologies, claiming they forgot to clean. A cold fury rises within him. He roars, questioning how they could neglect his wife in a manner where she is their sole charge. The maids shrink back, stammering their pathetic excuse. Since Celestia never complained, and since Count Rusbert Tristan himself seemed to dislike her, they just assumed her well-being didn't matter. A deadly silence fills the room. The Count's fury cools into a chilling, dark resolve, his amber eyes glowing from the shadows. His gaze drops to the unconscious woman in his arms, his expression unreadable. Looking back at the maids, his voice drops to a low, guttural command. "Get out," he seethes, declaring them all dismissed. It is an absolute order. Count Rusbert Tristan's voice thunders through the hall as he holds Celestia protectively. He orders every maid assigned to her to be dismissed immediately. This manor belongs to Celestia, he roars, and he will not tolerate servants who neglect her basic needs. His butler quickly agrees, but then speaks with a heavy heart. He explains that even while the Count was away, his wife never came to the dining hall. She was deeply despondent and likely hasn't been eating properly. The Count's expression darkens, his rage simmering into a cold, chilling stillness. Count Rusbert Tristan's voice thunders, demanding to know when Celestia last ate. The terrified maids tremble before him, a trembling voice finally admitting it was 3 days ago. They try to explain that she rarely ordered meals and never left her room, so they simply stop checking on her. His menacing shadow falls over them as he orders every last one of them out of his sight this instant, before he loses his sanity. One maid weakly protests that there's a storm outside, but his patience has worn thin. His eyes glow with a dangerous red light. If this neglect continues, he might truly lose himself. Clasping his hands, Count Rusbert Tristan feels a dark rage consuming him, a chilling thought echoing in his mind that he might end up doing something irreversible. The terrified maids shriek and scramble away, fleeing from his menacing presence. Later, in the quiet of Celestia's grand bedroom, a doctor examines her as she lies unconscious. Count Rusbert Tristan stands watch, his expression grave. The butler reflects on his own failure. He had assumed the maids were tending to her every need and never imagined she would suffer in silence. The doctor finally turns, assuring the Count that Celestia's life is not in danger. The doctor explains that malnutrition and lack of sleep likely caused Celestia's fall. He assures the Count that with proper rest, she should awaken soon. Left alone in the vast, silent room, Count Rusbert Tristan sinks into a chair by her bed. He thought he was providing her with a life free of want, Yet here she is. He gently takes her hand, a flicker of memory crossing his mind. Her skin was just as cold back then. You were always like an ice, he whispers, a look of anguish crossing his features as he presses his forehead to their joined hands. Memories flood Count Rusbert Tristan's mind. He sees her as a lonely noblewoman, then as a radiant, smiling youth from long ago. A vision of them as children, running freely while holding hands, flashes through his thoughts. He clings to that pure memory, telling himself that social status and physical closeness were meaningless. They didn't need such things back then. His agonizing, true reason for his coldness finally surfaces in a silent scream. I wanted to, not defile you. The thought tears through him as he presses his face into their clasped hands. Count Rusbert Tristan pleads with her in the silence of his mind, begging her to call the name of a man who was nothing to her. A fleeting, sun-drenched memory appears, Celestia as a girl, laughing as she calls out his name. But the vision sours, replaced by a cold, rainy day where he watches her cry, his own face a mask of shock and pain. The turmoil crashes over him in the dark room as his mind screams her name, a desperate plea to make these feelings stop. In the deep stillness of a grand, lonely room, Celestia sits at a desk, her hand moving with a quiet resolve. She carefully pins a letter, her final farewell addressed to Lord Rusbert. She attests that this is her choice, taken of her own free will. A single, merciful request is all she asks of him, to attend her father's wedding. With a sorrowful expression, she finishes signing her name. With this, she thinks, a sense of finality washing over her. Everything will be over. Her gaze turns toward the open window. Celestia approaches the open window, a fierce wind rushing in to meet her. She believes the roaring gale will hide any sound, allowing her to find an escape. Stepping onto the cold stone ledge, the rain soaks her gown and her long, platinum hair. Tears stream down her face as she thinks it feels like she could truly fly away. In her heart, a desperate wish forms for her next life, to have a body that can bear a child. She closes her eyes, accepting that this was a life where no one ever loved her. Celestia's body descends, falling into an imagined icy depth. As she sinks, her long platinum hair floating around her, a profound exhaustion washes over her. She is so tired of being alone, unable to find any reason to press on. Her final, desperate wish echoes in the silence of her mind, a plea for her next life to be one where she is loved, where she is not abandoned. Suddenly, a raw, desperate shout cuts through the rainy night. Seals. The cold impact never comes. Instead, strong arms catch her, pulling her back from the precipice. Count Rusbert holds her tightly, his face a mask of terror. Sunlight streams through an ornate window as Celestia's eyes flutter open. She lies in a warm bed, a disorienting peace settling over her. She wonders where she is, a soft confusion clouding her thoughts. Suddenly, her breath catches. The memory rushes back, the rain-soaked ledge, the fall, the arms that caught her. A dark, imposing image of Count Rusbert flashes in her mind. A wave of cold despair washes over her. She realizes with a sinking heart that she couldn't escape. After everything, she failed to find her freedom. A bitter thought crosses Celestia's mind. God must truly despise her. She covers her eyes, exhausted, wondering why she survived the plunge from such a height. A low, questioning voice cuts through her despair. Seals. Her eyes snap open. Count Rusbert jolts upright, his gaze fixed on her. He lunges forward, grabbing her hand with a desperate intensity. Seals. Stunned, she can only stare up at him, her lips forming his name in a weak whisper. Lord Roosevelt. Relief and terror war in his expression as he suddenly pulls her into a tight, shaking embrace, holding her as if he's afraid she might vanish. Celestia. Frozen in Count Rusbert's tight embrace, Celestia's mind struggles to grasp the situation. A distant clamor of servants shouting for a doctor barely registers. Her wide, purple eyes scan the lavish surroundings, a cold realization dawning on her. This is his bedroom. A storm of questions floods her thoughts. Why is he here? Why is he holding her with such raw, trembling desperation? It feels like a lie. She thinks that it's impossible for the man who treated her with such disdain to show this kind of genuine, overwhelming concern. Count Rusbert clutches Celestia, burying his face in her hair as a fragile smile touches his lips. He whispers, questioning if she is real, if this moment isn't a dream. Their intense embrace is broken by a commotion at the door. A frantic doctor bursts in, shouting that Celestia must not be moved. Ignoring the order, Roosbert gently lifts her himself, his gaze locked with her dazed purple eyes before carefully laying her back down. He turns to the doctor, his voice low and steady, entrusting Celestia's care to him as he goes to the waiting room. An older man's gentle voice cuts through the haze, addressing Celestia by her married name. He expresses deep relief that she is finally awake. Her purple eyes are wide with confusion, a blush rising to her cheeks as she whispers a soft apology. Alone with her thoughts, Celestia sits up in bed, clutching her shoulder. The memory of Roosbert's desperate embrace is still so vivid, the feeling of his touch a phantom warmth against her skin. In another room, Count Roosbert Tristan lies exhausted on a sofa, where he learns 3 full days have passed. Celestia reels from the news, her voice a fragile whisper as she asks if she truly slept for so long. The kind, older man confirms it, adding that her husband, Count Roosbert, never once left her side. The revelation hits her like a physical blow. Her purple eyes widen in utter disbelief as she insists it can't be true, that he must be joking. With a gentle smile, the man assures her that Roosbert waited tirelessly for her to awaken, a testament to how truly loved she is. The words cause tears to well in Celestia's eyes. That's wrong, she thinks, her heart aching. There's no way. It's impossible for me to be loved. Tears well in Celestia's eyes as she struggles with the impossible thought. Me? Loved by that person? The memory of Count Roosbert Tristan's cold, dismissive gaze flashes through her mind. And yet, another vision overwhelms her. A memory of him holding her in a desperate, trembling embrace, his face a mask of pure relief. The contradiction is too much to bear. Celestia crumples forward, burying her face in her hands as silent tears shake her frame. Don't give me hope, she pleads to an empty room, unable to accept this sudden kindness. In the pouring rain, Count Roosbert Tristan dashes across the estate, his voice raw as he cries out for Celestia. He finds her collapsed on the wet earth, cold and pale. He cradles her in his arms, his face contorted in anguish. The haunting memory shatters as Roosbert jolts awake, gasping for breath on a sofa. His hand flies to his forehead. A gentle voice asks if he is awake. Roosbert's heavy eyelids flutter open, a lone tear escaping as he looks up. An attendant smiles softly, informing him that it is already dusk. Count Roosbert Tristan lurches up from the sofa, his eyes wide with panic. "Where is Seals?" he demands. An attendant tries to soothe him, explaining that the lady has just woken up. In a grand, sunlit room, Celestia sits alone, lost in an overwhelming silence. She wonders if this is Roosbert's room, a place so quiet she can't even hear the usual whispers. A heavy question forms in her mind. Why was I allowed to stay? The memory of a desperate embrace feels like a fading dream, making her wonder if it was real at all. A hazy memory of a desperate embrace flickers in Celestia's mind, followed by a gentle, disembodied voice assuring her she is dearly loved. The thought feels alien in the vast, silent room where she sits alone. A sharp knock echoes from the grand doors, and she quietly invites the visitor in. A man with a warm expression enters, leaning on a cane. He introduces himself as William Laurent, a physician. With a polite smile, he explains that Count Roosbert Tristan hired him 2 days ago for a single purpose, to serve as her personal doctor. Celestia sits in stunned silence, her mind reeling. The physician was hired 2 days ago, right after the storm. An image of Count Roosbert Tristan's cold, intense gaze flashes through her thoughts, a stark contrast to this gesture of care. The idea is baffling. William Laurent's voice is gentle as he asks if she remembers the ordeal. Seeing her flinch, he quickly reassures her. "There's no need to force yourself," he says kindly, kneeling by her bed. He explains that Lord Roosbert has instructed him to fully support her health. Overwhelmed, Celestia whispers, "Thank you." A faint, hopeful smile touches Celestia's lips. If she can ask for anything, she has to know. She turns to the physician, her voice soft and hesitant. "Dr. William," she asks, "do you have any sons or daughters?" The question lingers in the grand room. William Laurent studies her, his expression turning somber. He understands at once the heavy burden behind her inquiry. "That must have been painful for you," he says with sincere compassion. Celestia's hands clench in her lap. At 24, she has never once had a child. As far as age alone is concerned, William continues gently, "There's no problem." Celestia's eyes widen, a flicker of stunned disbelief washing over her sorrowful face. To reassure her, William shares a story from 25 years ago. His late wife gave birth to their son at 26, and then again at 28. A warm, sunlit memory of his happy family and their newborn twins fills Celestia's mind. Twins, she whispers, a spark of wonder in her purple eyes. The hope quickly fades as William's expression grows somber. He gently explains that a child requires the cooperation of a partner and asks why Lord Rusbert so strongly refuses closeness. Celestia's face hardens with bitter resignation. "That man hates me," she states. "Yes. He withholds himself, even now, just to torment me." Celestia's shoulders slump as a bitter truth settles in her heart. There is no way Rusbert could ever love her. Her mind drifts to the sprawling manor, a place she feels exists only to make her suffer, where judging eyes follow her every move. She recalls the endless days of torment, the scornful glances from the servants and the neglected, untidy rooms. A tear escapes as she accepts her fate. As long as she remains his wife, she will never have the life she wants. Dr. William's voice cuts through her despair, offering to speak with Lord Rusbert himself. Dr. William's voice is kind as he offers his help, promising they will find a way for her to conceive a child with her husband. Celestia's head snaps up, her purple eyes wide with disbelief. "Truly," she whispers, her voice trembling with a hope she thought was long gone. The doctor gives a gentle nod, assuring her it is his duty to help. The simple act of kindness shatters her composure. A single tear escapes and trails down her cheek. "I'm sorry," she stammers, bringing a hand to her face as sobs overwhelm her. In the doctor's presence, Celestia feels an unfamiliar sense of reassurance. His kindness is a small light in her oppressive darkness. Meanwhile, in a lavish study, Count Rusbert Tristan listens intently as an older gentleman reports that Dr. William is meeting with the madam. Rusbert runs a stressed hand through his dark hair, his tense shoulders relaxing slightly. "That's a relief," he murmurs, his gaze softening. The older man explains that the doctor wished to leave the large hospital for a quieter life. Rusbert's mind settles, confident in the doctor's reputation. He believes Celestia's condition will finally stabilize. The older man casually adds that Dr. William is also quite popular with women. A moment later, a gentle knock sounds from outside Celestia's chambers, followed by a servant's voice asking if she is awake. The grand doors creak open, and Dr. William steps out, a chart in his hand. He meets Rusbert's gaze and reports that the examination is complete. His words hang in the air, heavy with an unspoken but. Instantly, the fragile calm shatters. A dark, possessive aura envelopes Rusbert as his expression hardens, his eyes glowing with dangerous intensity. A doctor expresses his relief to see Count Rusbert Tristan awake. But Rusbert, cloaked in shadow, ignores the greeting and immediately asks about Celestia's condition. The doctor feels a chill, unsettled by the intimidating presence the Count now radiates, a change that seems to have happened overnight. The doctor's mind flashes back to a quieter moment. He recalls Rusbert sitting vigilantly by Celestia's bedside, holding her still hand. He remembers Rusbert's desperate plea, promising any reward if the doctor could ensure Celestia never suffers like this again after she awakens. The doctor presents his official findings to Count Rusbert Tristan, his voice steady despite the oppressive air in the room. He explains that Celestia requires complete bed rest to recover her strength. He then cautiously reveals her personal request, a deeply held desire to conceive an heir. At his words, a muscle in Rusbert's shoulder twitches, the only crack in his stoic facade. The doctor outlines his plan to support this hope, but Rusbert's cold voice cuts through, asking how that differs from simply ensuring her health. The doctor clarifies it involves special nutrients to prepare her body. The doctor continues his explanation, suggesting they monitor Celestia's diet and lifestyle to aid her recovery. Count Rusbert Tristan coldly consents, stating they can proceed if it will satisfy that woman. But when the doctor proposes a similar regimen for the Count to help conceive an heir, Rusbert's voice drops. He calls it unnecessary, declaring that physical closeness between them is impossible, a complete waste. The doctor is taken aback, Celestia's sorrowful words echoing in his mind. But Rusbert's coldness suddenly ignites into something far more intense. He leans forward, his amber eyes glowing with a menacing light, delivering a chilling warning to the doctor never to touch Celestia for any other reason. Count Rusbert Tristan's voice drops to a menacing whisper, promising a dark fate if the doctor dares to approach Celestia with any ulterior motives. A cold sweat forms on Dr. William's brow as he quickly agrees, his mind reeling. This intense, dangerous possessiveness is a stark contrast to the simple coldness Celestia had described. Later, William speaks with an acquaintance, confirming that he is moving into the Count's manor, with Rusbert generously covering all the costs. His friend comments on the generosity, but also on the difficulty of the arrangement. William simply says he'll manage somehow. The young man with silver hair offers his services to Dr. William, asking to be hired as his assistant. With a knowing smile, he reveals he has been aware of Madame Celestia's difficult circumstances for some time. Later, Count Rusbert Tristan carries Celestia through the manor. Her purple eyes are wide with confusion as he enters a grand, sunlit room. It's immaculate, just as it was the first day she arrived. He gently places her on a chaise lounge, his voice low and steady. "I had the room thoroughly cleaned," he explains, leaving her speechless. Celestia sits on the lounge, her mind reeling. She recalls his harsh words, that he didn't even want to touch her. Count Rusbert Tristan turns away, announcing he has dismissed the useless staff and hired new ones. He tells her she has the authority to release them if they're incompetent, leaving her stunned. The power to manage staff is usually reserved for the Lord, and now it is hers. He then pivots, his expression dark. He commands her to report everything about the day of the storm as soon as she can speak. His eyes glow ominously as he vows to personally end the culprit. The new staff stares, their faces etched with shock. Celestia's mind reels. Does he truly not realize she willingly stepped off the ledge? Panic rises in her chest as she thinks of the farewell letter she left behind. Where did it go? She now understands. Count Rusbert Tristan doesn't know the truth. A memory of her on the balcony, ready to let go, flashes in her mind. She looks at his face, contorted with a cold, vengeful fury, and a new dread washes over her. What would he do if he knew she chose that path willingly? Celestia's mind races as she looks at Count Rusbert Tristan, wondering what his reaction would be if he knew the truth. His vengeful image fills her thoughts. The culprit he so desperately hunts for simply doesn't exist. Steeling herself, she looks down and offers a lie, her voice quiet. "It was my own carelessness." His intense gaze falls upon her for a moment before he simply replies, "I see." He tells her to be careful from now on, then turns and departs. A breath she didn't know she was holding escapes her. He doesn't suspect a thing. Celestia sits alone on the edge of her bed, her shoulders slumped in defeat. She thinks, the relief of her successful lie fading into familiar sorrow. Down the long, ornate hall, Count Rusbert Tristan stops walking. He questions if her fall was truly an accident, but quickly dismisses the notion, reasoning she was just lightheaded. When an aide approaches, Rusbert's calm demeanor shatters. He turns with glowing, intense eyes. "Make sure something like this never happens again," he commands. "Don't take your eyes off Celestia." On her knees, Celestia tears through the drawers of her vanity, her movements frantic. "Nothing," her mind screams, over and over. A cold dread washes over her as she realizes what's missing. Her farewell letter, she can't find it anywhere. Overwhelmed by panic, her hands slam down on the polished wood. "Why?" she silently pleads. Elsewhere, an aide with a tidy mustache stands holding a white envelope. A bead of sweat rolls down his temple as he stares at the letter, his expression etched with profound worry over what he has just read. A confident young man with silvery green hair steps forward, introducing himself as Hayden Radcliffe. He explains he's seeking employment, and his companion, a doctor, vouches for his exceptional skill despite his youth. Hayden then reveals a startling connection, stating he served as Lady Celestia's primary physician at the hospital 3 years ago. The air in the room shifts. Count Rusbert Tristan's stern expression falters, his eyes betraying a flicker of surprise. His mind races. 3 years ago, a hazy image of Celestia with another man surfaces, a memory from her time with the Albright family. To prove his honorable intentions, Hayden Radcliffe presents a photograph of his wife, explaining that he is a devoted husband with ambitions to one day run her family's small hospital. He touches the simple gold band on his finger, assuring Count Rusbert Tristan that he has no ulterior motives. With a confident smile, he formally requests to be hired to manage Celestia's health, asking to meet her just once to prove his trustworthiness. He insists the lady will surely remember him. Elsewhere, Celestia stands frozen, her purple eyes wide as she whispers his name in disbelief. In her sunlit room, Celestia's composure breaks. She asks Hayden Radcliffe why he is here, her voice a whisper of disbelief. He explains calmly that he is the new doctor's assistant. A warm memory washes over her, a time when she confided in him, admitting how reassuring his presence was. That gentle, hopeful expression is a stark contrast to the cold desolation of her previous marriage. Elsewhere, Count Rusbert Tristan dismisses Hayden, his decision unmade. He stands alone, haunted by the image of Celestia's soft smile directed at another man. That face, he thinks, a storm brewing in his intense amber eyes. Count Rusbert Tristan stands alone, tormented by the memory of Celestia's smile. He realizes with a pang that he's never seen that gentle expression directed at him, not even once. Meanwhile, his aide pauses in the hallway, his hands trembling as he holds a letter. When Hayden Radcliffe asks if something is the matter, the aide stammers that the letter seems to be in Celestia's handwriting, but something is wrong. A chilling memory resurfaces. The night he found this very letter after Celestia's desperate attempt to leave this world, his face paling in horror. A chilling memory grips the aide, the image of that tragic night flashing through his mind. He trembles, terrified of what his master would do if he saw this letter. Hayden Radcliffe's expression softens with understanding. "It must have been very difficult for you," he says softly, placing a reassuring hand on the aide's shoulder. Startled, the aide looks up. Hayden offers a solution, asking to take the letter and pretend he found it by chance. He reasons that since he's new, the Count will believe him. The aide bows low, overwhelmed with relief, stammering his heartfelt thanks. With a reassuring smile, Hayden Radcliffe places a hand on the aide's shoulder, swearing to stay by his side to ensure such a tragedy never happens again. The relieved aide earnestly asks him to do so. But as Hayden walks away, the letter clutched in his hand, his kind expression melts into a cold, calculating smirk. A perfect opportunity has just fallen into his lap. His patience and service from 3 years ago are finally bearing fruit. His mind fixates on his target, Lady Celestia, the wife of the notorious Count Rusbert. If he plays his cards right, this single opportunity could bring him more wealth than an entire noble family. Dr. Hayden enters the room, a charming smile gracing his features as he presents Celestia with a vibrant bouquet of yellow flowers. He explains he simply thought they would suit her. A touch of surprise softens Celestia's melancholic expression as she accepts the thoughtful gift. From the hallway, maids gossip in hushed tones, swooning over the handsome doctor. One whispers that he's like a prince. They chatter about how Lady Celestia seems happier lately, and has even stopped inviting him at night. Unseen by them, Count Rusbert Tristan stands listening, his expression hardening into a cold glare. The sharp voice of a head maid scatters the gossiping servants. Unseen, Count Rusbert Tristan turns and walks away, his expression unreadable. He has a battle in a week's time, and a quiet resolve forms in his mind. He should see her face at least once before he leaves. Meanwhile, inside her chambers, Celestia sits with Dr. Hayden Radcliffe. He mentions her past 5 marriages with feigned innocence, apologizing for his unfamiliarity with high society. Celestia calls it a disgrace, but Hayden smiles, smoothly suggesting that it's merely proof of how captivating she is. Celestia's gaze falls, her heart heavy. She dismisses his flattery, explaining that all her marriages, including this one, were only secured by her father's immense power. "No, Lady Celestia," Hayden insists gently, covering her hand with his own. "You are a wonderful woman." He admits he has heard of her struggles, of the cruel whispers calling her an isolated marionette. A pained look flashes in Celestia's eyes. Hayden looks at her with deep sincerity. "If it were me," he says softly, "I would spare no effort for my wife's future." He lifts her hand and presses a tender kiss to her knuckles. A faint, wistful smile touches Celestia's lips. She thanks Dr. Hayden, telling him he's so kind. But those words trigger a cascade of dark memories. She recalls how often she heard such gentle promises from friends before her unions began. A shattered mirror reflects her past. The men who, once married, left her feeling hollow and alone. Each time, hope turned to despair. Pulling herself back to the present, she looks at the doctor with a sad resignation. "His wife must be very happy," she remarks. Unseen, from the darkness of the hallway, Count Rusbert Tristan watches through a crack in the door. His golden eye blazes with a terrifying, possessive fire. A man seated across from Celestia notes how another woman is fortunate in her marriage. His mind drifts to Celestia's own situation, seeing a lonely woman starved for affection, rejoicing over mere flowers from a husband who ignores her. He asks if she doesn't find Lord Rusbert to be a splendid man. Celestia's quiet "no" escapes her lips before she quickly corrects herself. With a sorrowful look, she agrees he is magnificent, far beyond her worth. She hesitates, adding, It's just as a husband. From the shadows of a cracked doorway, Count Rusbert Tristan watches, his expression unreadable as he listens to her words. The man with silver hair leans forward, his voice a soft confession. His own marriage, he admits, is not going well either, a political convenience where his wife's heart lies elsewhere. Celestia's eyes widen in shock, her hand flying to her lips. He gently places his hand over hers, a silent reassurance. It is because of his own painful experience, he explains, that he can understand hers. Kneeling before her, he offers to dedicate his entire being to assist her, should she ever desire a sixth marriage. From the shadows, Count Rusbert Tristan watches, his expression hardening into a cold fury. Dr. Hayden's mind races with ambition. With the Duke's family as his patron, he could reach unimaginable heights. Celestia, touched by his words, offers a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, truly," she says, before adding with a weary look. "Dr. Hayden, you have a talent for jesting." But from the crack in the door, Count Rusbert Tristan's eye glares, silently witnessing the intimate exchange. Dr. Hayden then leans in close, whispering that he holds no attachment to his own family name, a clear sign of his serious intent. Dr. Hayden leans in, his voice a low, intimate promise. He vows to spare no effort to help her with the child she has so long desired. Celestia's purple eyes widen, a flicker of shock and fragile hope within them. After a final, "Take care," the doctor departs from the grand manor. Celestia watches from the window, giving a small, hesitant wave. When she turns, the warmth of the moment vanishes. Count Rusbert Tristan stands there, his fists clenched, an imposing shadow in the room. "Do not go anywhere near that man," he commands, his voice dangerously low. Count Rusbert Tristan's voice rings with cold finality. He forbids Dr. Hayden from ever setting foot on the estate again. Shock washes over Celestia's features. She can't understand his sudden command. She quickly defends the doctor, insisting his words were merely a jest meant to cheer her up. But a dark memory surfaces in Rusbert's mind, the doctor leaning intimately toward his wife. He scoffs at her defense, his gaze unyielding as he asks what part of that was a joke. He saw the man's true nature. His eyes and his character were both rotten. A defiant spark flashes in Celestia's purple eyes. She demands that Count Rusbert Tristan take back his insult, insisting that the doctor is her friend. Her mind drifts back to all the lonely days spent sitting on her bed, isolated and miserable. In those times, the only people who ever kept her company were the doctors. Facing her husband, she challenges him, reminding him of his promise that she was free to do as she pleased in this estate. A shadow falls over Rusbert's face, his jaw tight. "If that is so," he mutters, his voice dangerously low. He turns, and in a swift, furious motion, his fist slams into the wall. Count Rusbert Tristan turns away, his face a mask of cold fury. As he reaches the door, he glances back, his voice dripping with venom. He cruelly asks if her eyes have gone rotten as well, questioning her judgment of the doctor. Without another word, he storms out, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoes through the vast room, leaving Celestia standing alone, stunned and isolated. The next morning, a cheerful voice breaks the silence. Dr. Hayden greets her, holding a beautiful bouquet of pink roses, completely unaware of the turmoil he has caused. Celestia greets Dr. Hayden from her bed, her smile faint but polite. He explains that he has also brought the medicine from Dr. William, advising her to continue with the prescription. Celestia quietly agrees. As he prepares her dose, he discreetly places 2 other small bottles into his bag, unnoticed. She takes the pills he offers, and he watches with a gentle smile. But a sharp glint in his eyes reveals a darker ambition. He imagines a future where her health fails, leading to her current doctor's dismissal. In his fantasy, he becomes her sole physician, holding her close at last. Dr. Hayden's sinister fantasy takes shape. He imagines that if Celestia can no longer produce an heir, he will be the one to stand by her side. In his mind, winning her heart, and with it, the Royce family fortune, would then be a simple matter. Later, her physician delivers grim news. The results of her checkup, he explains, are not favorable. He asks if she has been taking her medicine properly. With a weary expression, Celestia confirms she has, without fail. Suddenly, her purple eyes cloud over, and she slumps forward, unconscious. The doctor leaps from his chair in a panic, crying out, "Lady Celestia?" A maid rushes to Count Rusbert Tristan, her words spilling out in a panicked report. He shoots up from his ornate chair, his body rigid with tension as he confronts her. A look of pure shock and disbelief twists his features. Seals is what? The furious question hangs in the air, his amber eyes wide with alarm. The delicate teacup he was holding slips from his trembling fingers. It tumbles through the air before striking the floor, shattering into 1,000 pieces and mirroring the sudden chaos that has just shattered his world. Dr. Hayden bursts into the room, his face a mask of frantic concern as he calls out for Lady Celestia. A maid calmly informs him that Celestia has collapsed and is now sleeping. The maid then mentions a new medication, a specially formulated remedy just for the lady of the house. Later, shrouded in the shadows of his study, a sinister smile curls Dr. Hayden's lips. He's confident his deception will go undiscovered, having made his own pills look identical to the real ones. Her fainting was an unexpected complication, he muses to himself. Next time, he simply needs to use a smaller dose. As Dr. Hayden reaches for the jar of pills, a cold voice cuts through the silence. "What are you doing?" Dr. Hayden freezes, turning to see Count Rusbert Tristan standing in the doorway, his amber eyes blazing with fury. Rusbert closes the distance between them, his presence menacing. "What were you just trying to do?" he demands, his voice dangerously low as he picks up a gleaming letter opener. "Were you about to touch the medicine?" He glares, suspecting the doctor is the reason Celestia collapsed. Dr. Hayden insists it's a misunderstanding, claiming he was just checking the medication. An oppressive aura radiates from Count Rusbert Tristan, so intense it feels hard to breathe. Dr. Hayden breaks into a cold sweat, finally understanding the chilling reputation of the formidable Count. Rusbert's amber eyes narrow as he demands to see what's inside the doctor's bag. Panic flashes through Dr. Hayden's mind. The swapped medicine is still in there. He never expected the Count to interfere. Defeated, Dr. Hayden lowers his head in compliance. "Understood," he says, already feigning regret for having to reveal this to Lady Celestia at such a time. Dr. Hayden reaches into his bag, but instead of medicine, he pulls out a crisp white envelope. He decides that now is the perfect moment to hand it over. Count Rusbert Tristan stares, his expression unreadable, and asks what the doctor means. Dr. Hayden extends the letter, explaining he found it lost in the furniture and apologizes for having seen its contents, calling it a coincidence. After Rusbert takes it, the doctor's tone turns sharp. He asks if it's possible that the true cause of Lady Celestia's failing health is Rusbert himself. Dr. Hayden turns to leave, but Count Rusbert Tristan's voice cuts through the air like a whip. "Wait." He grabs the doctor by the arm, his composure finally breaking. He furiously demands to know what the doctor means, what he could possibly know about Celestia. The doctor flinches, realizing his taunt has hit a nerve. Just as the confrontation peaks, a weak but clear voice orders them to stop. Both men turn in surprise. Celestia is sitting up in bed, watching them. Rusbert's anger evaporates, replaced by shock as her name escapes his lips. Dr. Hayden gathers his bag, announcing he will leave the two of them alone before quietly exiting the room. Count Rusbert Tristan turns back to the bed, his earlier fury gone, replaced with sheer relief as he asks Celestia if she's awake. Her purple eyes widen, fixed on the letter in his hand. A jolt of horror runs through her. It's the farewell note she wrote in a moment of utter despair. As Rusbert looks at the paper, asking what it is, Celestia's hand shoots out, her voice a desperate plea for him to wait. With a desperate cry, Celestia reaches for him, begging him to give the letter back. But Count Rusbert Tristan stands frozen, his amber eyes scanning the page as a dark, confused expression twists his face. What does this mean? He thinks, his world tilting. Defeated, Celestia sinks back onto the bed. She admits the truth in a quiet, tired voice. It's a farewell note, written the night she stepped from the window. Rusbert's hand clenches, crumpling the paper. Disbelief flashes into raw anguish as he looms over her, shouting, "You told me it was an accident." Count Rusbert Tristan's face darkens, his voice laced with accusation as he demands the real reason for her despair. He asks if it was because she couldn't bear the lack of closeness between them. Celestia turns away, her hand trembling as it clutches her nightgown. "No," she whispers, her voice breaking with sorrow. "I just wanted a child." Her mind floods with the crushing weight of her loneliness. Tears stream down her face as she remembers the fleeting hope the doctors gave her, only to feel abandoned by her husband again and again. Bitter thoughts overwhelm Celestia. She has done everything possible to avoid being abandoned, yet Count Rusbert Tristan refuses to give her the one thing she needs, an heir. Stealing her resolve, she cuts through his anger. "That's enough," she whispers, before proposing a bet. Her terms are staggering. If she wins, he must grant her permission to seek another partner, just until a child is born. Rusbert's face contorts with disbelief and fury. "Are you mad?" he shouts. But her desperation is a firestorm. "If you refuse to be my partner, then I don't care who it is anymore." A shocked silence falls between them, and a single tear of pure anguish slips down Rusbert's cheek. With chilling finality, Celestia outlines her side of the bet. If she loses, she promises to live completely by his command, abandoning all hope of escaping her sorrow and never again seeking his affection. Stunned by the weight of her vow, Count Rusbert Tristan watches as she names their contest. "Chess," she declares. The word shatters his composure, triggering a vivid memory of a smiling boy named Seals, playfully calling him Roos while holding a chess piece. The past collides with the present, and the boy's name escapes his lips, Seals. As a servant nervously presents a chessboard, Count Rusbert Tristan gives a curt nod of approval. After a brief consultation, Celestia offers a polite, weary smile to her doctor, assuring him she feels better as he takes his leave. Ignoring her completely, Rusbert moves to a private room, the click of the door echoing in the quiet hall. He stands across a table from her, the game board between them. With a cold gaze, he lays out the stakes. The match is the best of 3, but the condition is simple. If he wins even once, he is the victor. A quiet challenge hangs in the air between them. Celestia's purple eyes hold a hint of sorrow as she asks why he never thought to inquire if she could play. His amber gold eyes widen slightly at her question. The rigid present dissolves into a sunlit memory of a perfect day. A young Rusbert looks up in awe, amazed that the cheerful girl beside him, a young Celestia, knows how to play chess. She giggles, her face bright with youthful joy, promising to teach him. But the memory fades. Back at the table, Count Rusbert Tristan's expression is cold, his past buried. He deflects, calling himself a simple mercenary. How, he asks with a hardened gaze, could she possibly think that would know how to play chess? A quiet gasp escapes Celestia's lips. She realizes her assumption was foolish. Chess is a gentleman's pastime, something she shouldn't have expected him to know. Filled with remorse, she apologizes and offers to change the terms of their match. But Count Rusbert Tristan cuts her off, assuring her it's fine. With a decisive move, he slides a chess piece forward. He knows how. Celestia watches, stunned. He learned long ago, he explains, from someone important to him. His gaze darkens as he looks away, his expression unreadable. "Let's begin," he commands. The match begins, but Count Rusbert Tristan's mind drifts to another opponent, another time. A memory surfaces of a game against a smiling, blonde-haired man, a match he lost twice. He recalls his own surprise, how he never expected such a defeat. The man's voice echoes, asking who could have taught him to play that way. The memory shatters as Celestia's hand moves with quiet grace. She places a white knight on the board, her voice soft but final. "Checkmate." Rusbert's amber gold eyes widen in utter shock. Celestia simply gazes back at him, poised and serene, asking if they should proceed to the second match. Count Rusbert Tristan's expression hardens. He reminds her there is still a second match. Without another word, the game resumes, pieces gliding across the board in a silent, swift battle. Celestia plays with a detached grace, but her mind drifts to a darker time. A vision of an overturned chessboard flashes before her eyes, and the cruel words of a past suitor echo in her memory. His voice, filled with rage, questions how a woman could dare to think herself smarter than a man, accusing her of enjoying his defeat. The painful memory is suddenly replaced by another, a warmer one from his own past. In a sunlit room, a cheerful, blonde-haired friend playfully admits defeat. "You're really strong, Seals," he says with a laugh, conceding that he can't win a single game. But the pleasant recollection brings no comfort. Back in the present, Count Rusbert Tristan's hand clenches into a tight fist, his knuckles white. A dark intensity smolders in his eyes as Celestia's name escapes his lips, a low, strained whisper. "Seals." They sit opposite each other, the room thick with unspoken tension. Count Rusbert Tristan's mind races, replaying the terms of their wager. If he wins, she must grant him permission to seek comfort elsewhere. But if he loses, Celestia would be bound to him only until she could bear a child. A child? The word echoes in his head. He recalls her desperate plea for just one night together. Suddenly, the whispers of the court flood his memory, the smirking men, the gossiping ladies. He questions everything he's ever heard. A horrified realization dawns on his face as he stares into the darkness. What have I been believing all this time? With a final, decisive move, Count Rusbert Tristan declares, checkmate. Across the table, however, Celestia's expression is calm. Victory is mine, she states simply. Seeing the sun has set, she rises and prepares to retire for the evening. But as she turns to leave, his voice cuts through the silence. Wait. She stops, her back to him, her shoulders slumped in weary resignation. She asks who he plans to invite to his room now. Perhaps the young doctor? She immediately dismisses the thought, noting the doctor has a beloved wife and children. Unlike you, she adds softly. Celestia's voice is devoid of warmth. She informs him that even the doctors are far more precious to her than he is. His amber eyes widen in stunned silence, her words striking him with unexpected force. With a final, weary command for him to leave, she turns her back. But as she walks away, Count Rusbert Tristan moves in a flash. He grabs her arm, pulling her back with a desperate strength. She stumbles, falling back onto a chaise lounge as he looms over her. A frantic thought ignites in his mind as he recalls their wager, permission to share a night with someone. Hope dawns on his face. Could that someone be him? Celestia's purple eyes widen in shock as Count Rusbert Tristan moves without hesitation. He pulls his shirt over his head, the fabric sliding away to reveal the toned, scarred muscles of his chest. He settles close to her, his presence gently holding her against the chaise lounge. Leaning close, his intense amber gaze burns into hers, a possessive, triumphant smile spreading across his face. He reminds her of her promise, the prize for winning their game. He has made his choice, and he is here to claim his victory, her. Count Rusbert Tristan leans over Celestia, his body hovering close to hers on the bed. He whispers close to her ear, asking if she is scared. Her eyes remain shut, a faint blush spreading across her cheeks as his hand rests gently on her waist. He tells her that all she has to do is say the word, and he will stop right away. Her purple eyes flutter open, wide with confusion. She wonders how this could have happened. As her hand clutches the sheets, he adds a condition. She may never share a moment like this with another man. A single tear escapes her eye as an unfamiliar heat spreads through her, and she lets out a soft breath. His grip on her hand tightens as he leans closer, his voice a desperate, strained plea. Count Rusbert Tristan urges her to speak quickly, warning that his own sanity is reaching its breaking point. Overwhelmed by the sudden intensity, Celestia shields her eyes with her arm, her mind a chaotic storm. She doesn't know anymore, questioning why this is happening at all. The confusion swirls inside her as she looks up at him, her lips parting to softly breathe the beginning of his name, Lord Roos. Her hands tremble against his chest as she whispers a soft, fragmented plea. With a deep blush coloring her cheeks, Celestia looks up, her purple eyes a mixture of surrender and desperation. Count Rusbert Tristan's own expression is one of raw, overwhelming emotion, his control completely shattered. He leans down, gently brushing a strand of her platinum hair aside. Their lips finally meet in a deeply emotional embrace, sealing the unspoken turmoil between them. The moment deepens, and the scene fades. Later, Celestia lies alone, her hair fanned across the pillow, her eyes wide and dazed. Celestia awakens in the quiet morning light, the events of the night feeling distant and hazy. A dream. She whispers to herself. Sitting up, she finds a crisp note left behind. It's a simple, stark message from Count Rusbert Tristan. He's gone to the battlefield. A sudden, sharp gasp escapes her as a memory flashes in her mind. His face, filled with a raw, desperate emotion as he called her name. She sits frozen in the disheveled sheets, utterly bewildered. Why did he look at her with such an expression? Celestia tosses in the sheets, her mind racing. She tells herself that Count Rusbert Tristan must despise her for her connection to his hometown's ruin, that he can't even bear her touch. Her previous marital obligations were always a cold, sorrowful duty meant only to secure an heir, miserable and humiliating. But last night, it was unbelievable. She had never lost control like that before. A deep blush warms her face as she recalls the overwhelming feeling. Despite all her rationalizations and past pain, she felt as if she were completely melting in his arms. Celestia lies in bed, her body feeling heavy and warm. She sighs, thinking she can't possibly move today. A sharp knock sounds at her door, and a man's polite voice calls out, asking permission to enter. He steps inside, a doctor by his appearance, offering a gentle smile as he explains he's come to check on her. His gaze falls on her, and his expression shifts. Celestia's eyes fly open in horror. a deep blush of humiliation spreading across her cheeks. Several days later, the scene shifts to a bleak and ruined landscape. Amidst the chaos of battle, Count Rusbert Tristan delivers a decisive blow to an adversary. He stands over the defeated figure, his intense amber gold eyes burning with cold fury. Two of his soldiers watch in awe. One mutters that their captain was truly terrifying in this fight. Yeah. The other agrees, completely shaken. A soldier remarks in awe that Count Rusbert Tristan single-handedly dismantled the enemy forces. But the victory brings Rusbert no peace. The memory of his night with Celestia still haunts him, the raw intensity of their connection leaving a deep mark. He believes he has tainted her. His gauntlet hand clenches into a tight fist as he condemns himself. As rain begins to fall, his mind drifts to the vicious whispers that follow her, rumors of a woman who is never satisfied. He struggles to reconcile that cruel gossip with the woman he held. His soldiers erupt in cheers, shouting that their Lord Rusbert is amazing, but their praise doesn't reach him. He is lost in a memory, seeing Celestia's flushed, vulnerable face as she whispers his name. A torturous doubt floods his mind. Was that a lie? Was she only pretending to be satisfied, just wanting it to be over? His expression darkens, a possessive torment twisting his features as a terrible thought grips him. If he couldn't please her, is she making that same expression with another man right now? His men watch on, their cheers dying in their throats. A soldier approaches his comrade, reporting that the prisoner they've captured wishes to negotiate. The other man asks for a name, but the simple question is not for him. It snags on Count Rusbert Tristan, whose intense gaze darkens as a maelstrom of memories consumes him. He is thrown back into a grand ballroom, forced to listen as Celestia's betrothal is announced to another. The whispers of the court haunt him, voices declaring a different man her ideal match. The memory twists his features into a mask of cold fury. That man's name rings in his ears, Duke Chester Adrian. The memory of Duke Chester Adrian solidifies into the defeated man kneeling before him. Chester looks up at the armored figure of Count Rusbert Tristan, a wry, defeated smile playing on his lips. He asks if this is the commander, noting that it certainly explains his loss. For Rusbert, this is not just an enemy soldier. This is the first man who stood by Celestia's side. The thought unleashes a venomous storm in his mind. This Duke, the very root of all the vicious rumors that tormented her. Chester's voice cuts through the haze, asking the formidable Count to go easy on him. In a cold, stone chamber, a detained man sits securely with his wrists bound, a defiant smirk on his face. He offers his complete surrender, promising information about the political struggles of Duke Chester Adrian. But then, he utters a single name that cuts through the air, Celestia Royce. Count Rusbert Tristan's amber gold eyes widen in surprise. The prisoner leans in, his tone mocking as he asks about Rusbert's ex-wife. An intense, dark expression consumes Rusbert's face as he looms over the man, demanding to be told only the truth about her. Count Rusbert Tristan's amber gold eyes burn with a fearsome intensity. He leans over the captured man, commanding him to speak only the truth. The prisoner, bruised and intimidated, quickly agrees, wondering why the Count cares so much about that woman. The scene shifts to a bright, elegant room where a kind gentleman asks Celestia how she is feeling. She turns, a gentle smile gracing her lips, and assures him she is much better, all thanks to him. Her quiet thoughts, however, reveal the true source of her newfound peace. Ever since Rusbert left, she has finally been able to live. In a sunlit parlor, Celestia expresses her sincere gratitude to the physician, Dr. William, telling him her health has completely recovered thanks to his care. He smiles kindly, replying that he is simply doing his job, but reminds her to take care of herself. Celestia agrees and brings a delicate teacup to her lips. As she enjoys a moment of peace, the doctor reviews his notes on a clipboard. His thoughts paint a much grimmer picture. While her condition has stabilized since she collapsed, she is far from being able to carry a child. At this rate, it will be difficult. Count Rusbert Tristan confronts the physician, his voice sharp as he questions him about a Dr. Hayden. Rusbert's mind flashes back to the day Celestia collapsed, recalling a sinister image of Hayden tampering with her medicine. He explains that the situation was suspicious, but Celestia refused to listen to his warnings. The horrifying truth dawns on Dr. William. He remembers Celestia's health worsened precisely after she entrusted her medicine to that man. "I understand," he declares, promising to personally manage her medication from now on. His internal thoughts confirm the terrible reality. Since that day, Celestia's condition hasn't worsened once. Dr. William peers over the chessboard, a faint smile on his lips as he declares the game over. Checkmate. The maids gasp, their eyes wide with excitement. One remarks how amazing the game was, admitting she never thought her lady had a chance. Celestia's mind drifts back. The chess set has been in her room since that night, and when the servants showed interest, she began giving them pointers. Dr. William praises her remarkable talent, noting that neither he nor Dr. Hayden ever stood a chance against her. Celestia simply smiles, saying he's too kind. A faint, contented smile graces Celestia's lips as she recalls the game, thinking it was fun. A maid's timid voice cuts through the pleasant memory, asking if the rumor about her defeating the Lord is actually true. Celestia calmly confirms it is. The maids gasp in disbelief, their eyes wide with shock. Dr. William explains that Count Rusbert Tristan is famous for his skill, even managing to beat Prince Louis. Celestia simply states that was the entire reason she bought the chess set. Elsewhere, clad in cold steel armor, Rusbert clenches his fist, his expression grim. A single, sharp thought echoes in his mind. That's all. The defeated man sits with a weary air, stating that he's revealed all he knows. Count Rusbert Tristan glares, his mind flashing back to the vile rumors he'd once heard about Celestia, that she was fickle and discarded men when she grew tired of them. A sudden, chilling laugh cuts through the tension. She got what she deserved, didn't she? The man sneers, a malicious glint in his eyes. He confesses that being with her was like holding a lifeless doll. He couldn't allow anyone to think the fault was his, so he protected his pride by creating the gossip. As he lies on the floor under Rusbert's intense gaze, his hand stealthily closes around the hilt of a hidden blade. A soldier's panicked cry for Captain Roosevelt echoes in the darkness, but the threat is already neutralized. Count Rusbert Tristan glares down at the defeated man, whose hidden blade now clatters uselessly to the ground. Elsewhere, Celestia speaks with a doctor in a quiet room. He gently asks if it's true that none of her previous marriages were ever fully realized. With a heavy heart, she confirms it is. Celestia apologizes for the confession, but he offers a reassuring smile, thanking her for her trust. Beneath his kind exterior, however, a cold thought forms. After all his work, he has his answer. She is simply incapable of affection. A cold, calculating thought surfaces in the doctor's mind. He sees Celestia as a dull woman, easily cast aside, but realizes this is a perfect opportunity for him. Turning to face her, he softly calls out, "Lady Celestia," and asks if she remembers the confession he made to her before. She looks up from the sofa, her expression filled with confusion. He reassures her that his feelings haven't changed. The truth, he declares with a steady gaze, is that he loves her, not as a patient, but as a woman. Celestia is frozen, her eyes wide with shock. With a sudden movement, the doctor pushes Celestia back, and she lands softly on the sofa. Her platinum blonde hair fans out as she stares up at him, her eyes wide with shock and confusion. Leaning over her, he softly asks why they don't find out together. He proposes a dangerous idea, that they discover if she is truly capable of conceiving a child with him. His words hang in the air as he offers to be the one to comfort both her heart and soul, instead of her fifth husband, Lord Rusbert. Dr. Hayden leans over Celestia, his voice a low whisper as he suggests he could comfort both her heart and soul. Lying beneath him, Celestia's eyes widen in disbelief. She thinks, her mind immediately flashing to the fact that he has a wife and children. However, her own desperate desire for a child surfaces. She remembers her bargain with Count Rusbert. If she won their chess match, he would allow her to share her nights with other men. A shattered hourglass appears in her mind's eye. She won the game, and time is running out. Celestia closes her eyes in weary resignation. Dr. Hayden leans over her, his voice a soft murmur as he tells her to relax. But as his hand gently touches hers, her mind is violently pulled back to a memory. An image of Count Rusbert Tristan, his amber eyes burning with intensity, flashes in her thoughts. His powerful voice echoes in her head, a possessive decree that the next time she did this, it would be with him. The chilling memory makes her flinch away, recoiling from the doctor's touch. Surprised, he asks what's wrong. With a heavy heart, Celestia sits up, her voice a quiet command. "I'm sorry, Dr. Hayden. That's enough." She reminds him to please take care of his family. A shadow of irritation crosses his face before he grabs his coat and storms from the room, leaving her in the echoing silence. Left alone, Celestia wanders to the window, wrapping her arms around herself. A question floods her mind. Why is she thinking about right now? She sighs, believing she had long ago abandoned any hope of expecting anything from her husband. A fleeting image of knights in gleaming armor, their faces alight with grim excitement, flashes through Celestia's mind before dissolving into the bright light of a society ball. She forces herself to attend, but the cordial greetings quickly turn sour. "Congratulations on your marriage, Lady Celestia," a noblewoman says, her smile not reaching her eyes. Another chimes in with false concern. "Oh dear, how many times has it been now?" Celestia's sorrowful purple eyes gaze back, a familiar sting of humiliation washing over her. She knows she is being laughed at. It is nothing new. A noblewoman approaches, offering congratulations not for Celestia's marriage, but for her father's. Celestia forces a serene smile, thanking her politely. Internally, a strange sense of relief washes over her. A weight lifts from her shoulders. Despite the rumors about her father, she finds herself genuinely hoping he and her new stepmother will find happiness. With quiet conviction, she decides this is for the best. The crushing burden of his expectations is no longer hers to bear. She dismisses the women with a polite farewell, leaving them to turn away, unsettled by her composure. The pressure and the duties fade into memory, thorns of a life she no longer leads. In that moment of freedom, she had nothing left. Celestia lifts her wine glass, her weary reflection staring back from the deep red liquid. Perhaps this is why the whispers and stares no longer sting. The words simply don't reach her anymore. Her quiet reflection is broken by a confident voice from across the room. "Check." She turns to see a red-haired man smirking over a chessboard, his opponent conceding defeat. "You've still got a long way to go," he says smugly. The red-haired man laughs, his voice full of condescending charm. He proclaims that chess is naturally a gentleman's pastime, a game far too refined for women and children to ever comprehend. From afar, Celestia listens, her expression unreadable. She remembers teaching her maids to play, how they understood the rules just fine. But she knows the truth of this room. The women cooing over the man, calling him marvelous, are the ones who are correct here. He continues his speech, declaring men superior in every respect, and that it is their duty to protect such inferior creatures. Celestia merely sighs. Here we go again. The onlookers murmur to one another. It's another one of Count Robert's speeches. He dominated the last ball, and in this world, winning grants you the right to say whatever you please. His smug voice declares that God gave women a single virtue, the ability to bear children. The word hangs in the air, piercing Celestia's thoughts. The world around her fades to a cold, dark void. If that is a woman's sole purpose, she questions what that makes her, as someone who cannot. The painful silence is suddenly broken by a bright memory, a young boy's beaming face. "Seals, teach me chess again." He cheers. The memory of the boy's happy face fades, replaced by the arrogant laughter of Count Robert, who taunts the room, asking if any man can truly challenge him. A quiet, firm voice cuts through the crowd. "Excuse me." Celestia thinks of what she should do. The correct answer is to smile politely, for a woman must know her place. But now, she has nothing left to lose. She steps forward, her purple eyes meeting his. She asks if, since no one else is willing, he might allow a woman to be his opponent. The crowd gasps. Robert looks down, a single bead of sweat on his brow, a smirk playing on his lips. Well, Lady Celestia." Count Robert's lips curl into a condescending smirk. He claims to be honored by her invitation, but immediately apologizes, questioning if a game of this nature is too difficult for a woman. He catches himself, feigning politeness as he prepares to rephrase his insult. Before he can continue, Celestia's calm voice cuts him off. She assures him there's no need for an explanation of the rules. With a newfound resolve, she stands tall before the crowd and requests a true match. For the first time, she decides she will not worry about anyone's eyes anymore. In the gilded hall, all eyes are on the chessboard. Celestia and her red-haired opponent trade moves, the quiet clicks of the pieces echoing the silent tension. Onlookers murmur, asking who holds the advantage. Her opponent offers a condescending compliment, telling her she's doing quite well, but his confident smirk falters. Inside, his mind reels with confusion, unable to comprehend where her skill comes from. Celestia, however, remains poised and serene. For her, the game is instinctual, a deep-seated knowledge she can't even remember acquiring. Her talent is simply a part of her. A fleeting memory surfaces in Celestia's mind, a young boy wanting to play chess just like his father. The image dissolves as her hand glides over the board. For a moment, she felt like she was about to remember something. Her opponent, sweating under the pressure, makes a desperate move. Another memory flashes, a boy with dark hair smiling brightly, asking her to teach him again. With quiet resolve, she corners his king. Check. A final, decisive slide of her queen ends the game. The black king topples. Checkmate. A wave of shock washes over the onlookers. They whisper in disbelief, amazed that Celestia has won and that a woman could be so skilled. Her opponent's face contorts with fury as he slams his fist down. One more time, he demands. Celestia calmly agrees to another match, but she has a single condition. She reminds him of his earlier words, recalling his boast that women were inferior beings. Now, she wants him to retract that statement. Her gaze is sharp and unwavering as she speaks. When it comes to intelligence, gender is irrelevant. Her opponent's face contorts with humiliation, his pride wounded. After a tense silence, he finally relents. You were right, he mutters, apologizing for his arrogant words. Celestia accepts with quiet dignity, her expression unreadable. The onlookers murmur in astonishment, their perception of her shifting in an instant. They marvel at her skill, wondering if Lady Celestia was always this formidable. Another game concludes with her swift victory. Now, the previously dismissive nobleman crowd around the table, eagerly competing with one another for the honor of playing against her next. As the crowd murmurs, one nobleman cynically suggests Count Robert must have gone easy on Celestia. The defeated man's face burns with fury as he denies the accusation, but his friend only laughs. Another lady approaches Celestia, her smile laced with condescension. I must say I'm surprised, she begins, adding a veiled, intimate insult about Celestia's skills. Before Celestia can react, Count Robert turns, his voice a roar of indignation. He points a shaking finger at the woman, declaring he won't tolerate anyone disrespecting the person who bested him. His fierce defense leaves her stunned and speechless. A new voice cuts through the crowd, asking Lady Celestia for a match. The onlookers gasp as the host of the ball himself, Duke Durand, steps forward with a warm smile. He admits his surprise at finding a woman who enjoys chess, but quickly dismisses it, declaring that over the board, such things are irrelevant. He praises her talent, overjoyed as a fellow enthusiast to witness such a fine player. Looking at her directly, he asks for a game. A serene confidence blossoms on Celestia's face. She never imagined this. Placing a hand to her chest, she accepts with pleasure. Under a starry sky at a military encampment, Count Rusbert Tristan sits alone, staring into the flickering campfire. His mind is consumed by a single, sharp realization. The vicious rumors surrounding Celestia were all lies. A subordinate knight approaches, asking how he feels. A dark, fleeting memory of a man in agony after an intense questioning session surfaces. Rusbert brushes off the concern, but the knight presses, asking if he's still bothered by what Celestia's ex-husband said. Yeah, Rusbert admits quietly, his gaze fixed on the flames. The knight sighs, acknowledging he had heard those cruel whispers too. Count Rusbert Tristan confesses that he'd heard the whispers about Celestia for a long time, but the realization that they were all lies hits him hard. His mind spirals into regret. He didn't understand a thing about her. A vision of them lying beside one another cracks like a broken mirror. He admits to himself that he never truly saw her, blinded by the false, thorny image her ex-husband had created. He was supposed to watch over her, to be the one to save her. But now, he feels he was never needed. The pure, innocent past he imagined shatters completely. She's no longer the Celestia she was back then. An unexpected longing for Celestia washes over Count Rusbert Tristan. The fractured memories of her feel like sharp fragments in his mind, threatening to unravel him. He recalls the day he first saw her, a vision of unmatched beauty, like a goddess walking among mortals. But that perfect image cracks and shatters into countless pieces. Overwhelmed by agonizing regret, he collapses, clutching his head. He realizes with crushing certainty that someone like him could never have possibly understood her. His knight looks back, his expression filled with deep concern for his tormented commander. The knight looks down with concern, his words trailing off as a new, steely resolve hardens in Count Rusbert Tristan's amber gold eyes. He remains collapsed, a dark promise forming in his tormented mind. He thinks, miles away, Celestia accepts a letter from a maid. Her purple eyes scan the elegant script, an invitation to a game of chess. A gentle, unsuspecting smile graces her lips as she reads. Unaware of her husband's chilling vow, she is caught in his shadow, a promise to never let her escape again. The carriage halts before the grand estate. As Celestia steps onto the gravel path, a man greets her. "Welcome home, Lady Celestia." Her purple eyes are weary, but she meets the gaze of a concerned man with glasses, Dr. William, who remarks on her unexpectedly early return. Celestia's expression hardens with resolve. She looks straight at him, insisting they must speak at once. Later, in a private parlor, Dr. William listens, his face a mask of shock at what she tells him. Celestia sits opposite him, calm and composed, and begins to outline her intentions. Celestia calmly issues her command. Dr. Hayden is to be banned from the estate and removed from her medical care. Dr. William, stunned, agrees immediately. He bows his head low, apologizing for his role in introducing the man and accepting it as his responsibility. His mind reels with disbelief, replaying memories of Hayden's seemingly innocent friendship with Celestia, now tainted with suspicion. He even recalls a tense meeting between Hayden and Count Rusbert. Grappling with the potential depth of the betrayal, he promises to handle the fallout and find her a replacement at once. Celestia's expression is somber as she reassures Dr. William, insisting she doesn't blame him for what happened. She, too, believed a simple acquaintance would be harmless. Her mind flashes back to Count Rusbert's stern warning, a warning she foolishly ignored. He was right all along. A new resolve settles over her. She must apologize as soon as he returns. Suddenly, a flustered maid bursts into the room, announcing that the Lord's carriage has unexpectedly arrived. Celestia's head snaps up, her purple eyes wide with shock. Her moment of reckoning has come far sooner than prepared for. Celestia's heart hammers in her chest. She can't believe he has returned so soon. With her hands clasped tightly, she desperately wonders if she has the strength to apologize properly. A bittersweet memory surfaces, that fateful night, the last time they truly spoke before the silence grew between them. Her thoughts are shattered by a powerful voice echoing from the grand hall below. "Where is Celestia?" Count Rusbert strides in, his demanding presence freezing the entire household. A butler hastily explains she is being summoned, his words barely registering over his lord's burning impatience. Count Rusbert storms through the hall, his voice sharp with urgency as he demands to know if she is in her room. From the grand staircase, Celestia looks down, her voice a soft murmur. His intense, amber gold eyes snap up to meet hers. "Celestia," he shouts. She flinches at his tone, bowing her head. "Welcome home," she whispers. Her mind races, questioning his anger. No, she must apologize before he hears the news from someone else. But a cold fear grips her. Confessing might only make him more furious. His heavy boots echo on the floor, rapidly closing the distance between them. Count Rusbert seizes Celestia by her shoulders, his face a mask of rage. "It was all a lie, wasn't it?" he demands, his voice thundering through the grand hall. Her purple eyes widen in shock as he roars about the vicious gossip that has plagued her. He repeats the rumors of her being a woman with endless worldly demands, one who cast aside past husbands out of sheer boredom. As the horrified staff look on, Celestia trembles in his grip. With a fragile voice, she asks why he brings this up now, but he only stares back, silent and intense. Count Rusbert's voice is low and dangerous as he reveals the source of the vicious gossip: her first husband, Chester Adrian. A ghostly memory of the man flashes through Celestia's mind, and she gasps, her purple eyes wide with disbelief. She thought that man was long in her past. Rusbert leans closer, his intense gaze pinning her as he demands to know the truth. A flicker of hope sparks within her. For the first time, he is not just condemning her, he is asking. The heavy weight of her past looms, spectral figures surrounding her in the darkness. Celestia recalls the crushing loneliness of her past, a dark void where she had long given up trying to make anyone believe her. Phantom hands of scorn and judgment pull at her as she remembers resigning herself to a life of mockery for a shame she never committed. She believed no one would ever listen to the truth. However, after what felt like an eternity in that darkness, she sees him. Count Rusbert Tristan. For the first time, he is trying to see her for who she truly is. A new resolve fills her. She will tell him everything. Celestia takes a single step forward, a symbolic move out of the darkness and into a sliver of hope. Perhaps this one act of courage will finally pave the way back into the light. Count Rusbert Tristan's intense amber eyes watch her every move. He agrees to listen, but on one condition. With a resolve she hasn't felt in years, Celestia meets his gaze. She tells him they will speak tonight, in his room. The request hangs in the air, a bold and unexpected move. If he truly wishes to believe her, he will agree. A firm knock sounds against the heavy wooden door. Count Rusbert Tristan stands waiting, his robe loosely tied, his intense amber eyes fixed on the entrance. He knows she is here. Celestia enters, her expression a mask of unwavering resolve. This is it. This time, he is the one who must accept her, the real her. They face each other from opposite ends of the lavish room, a chasm of silence and misunderstanding between them. With a single, deliberate step, Celestia begins to close the distance, her heart pounding with the weight of her long-held secret. Celestia cautiously enters the room, clutching her shawl in disbelief. He actually let her inside. Count Rusbert Tristan turns to face her, his robe open, his expression unreadable. With a sharp, unwavering gaze, he gives a single command: speak. Taking a deep breath, Celestia meets his eyes and declares she will tell him the truth behind the rumors. Painful memories flood her mind. The despair of her former husbands, the cold finality of legal documents, and the endless whispers of the court. Her expression is solemn as she concludes her story, stating the simple, unadorned facts of her past. Count Rusbert Tristan's hand clenches into a tight fist, his expression hardening. He isn't satisfied with her simple explanation. His voice is a low growl as he presses her for more, asking what else her former husbands did to her. Celestia looks up, confused by the unexpected intensity in his question. She insists she has told him the facts, but his gaze remains fixed, his eyes glowing with a cold fire. He knows the rumors wouldn't have persisted if only one man was involved. It's only natural for him to doubt her. Celestia remembers the crushing weight of public opinion. Because her past husbands turned against her, the court took every rumor as truth, leaving her isolated no matter how she tried to deny it. She clutches her robe, her heart sinking with the certainty that he won't believe her either. But Count Rusbert Tristan's voice cuts through her despair. His intensity builds as he fires off questions, demanding to know who was responsible, what they did, and the extent of the harm they caused her. He insists she tell him everything, who started it all. Count Rusbert Tristan's hands tighten on Celestia's shoulders, his voice raw with fury as he demands to know who turned her into a lifeless doll. She stares up at him, bewildered by his intense reaction. Why is he going this far? His anger only grows as he questions her passivity, asking why she isn't enraged by the disgrace. A chilling memory flashes through her mind, a grim-faced man looming over her in the pouring rain. Rusbert insists that as a duke's daughter, she should have retaliated. He asks why she let them have their way. If only she had spoken up from the start, but her face darkens with a quiet despair. If I had? She wonders, the bitter reality of her past silencing his furious questions. Celestia challenges his anger with a bitter, knowing smile. Does he really believe anything would have changed if she had spoken up? She is certain it wouldn't have, telling him plainly that he wouldn't have cared anyway. Her mind drifts back, searching for the exact moment she finally stopped having expectations. Was it when a former suitor's feelings for her faded? No, even before that. A heartbreaking realization settles over her. There was never anyone who truly wanted her for herself. A sad vision of her younger self appears, standing alone in an empty darkness. A painful realization washes over Celestia. Never, from the very beginning, has she had anyone. A memory surfaces of her younger self, huddled and alone in a dark, empty void. For a moment, she sees a boy's back and hears him call out her name. Seals, a fleeting whisper from the past. Suddenly, she is back in the present. Count Rusbert Tristan's hand gently cups her cheek, his touch surprisingly soft. Don't decide that on your own, he says, his amber eyes locked on hers. He wants to know everything about her. What happened with her previous husbands? Who said what to her? His sudden, intense curiosity leaves her speechless. Count Rusbert Tristan's gaze intensifies, his voice a low, possessive growl. He demands to know everything about her past husbands, what they taught her, if her heart ever wavered for them. The questions become a relentless torrent, seeking every private detail. Who did she change for? Who pressured her? He insists she tell him about every person who ever hurt or denied her. I want to know it all, he declares, his obsession laid bare. Celestia trembles, overwhelmed by the suffocating pressure. Why? She stammers. Why go to such lengths? Because I want to know, Count Rusbert Tristan says, his voice a low command. He pulls Celestia closer, insisting she tell him nothing but the truth. In a stunningly swift movement, he lifts her into his arms. Her purple eyes widen in shock as he carries her, declaring he has no use for lies or pleasantries. He gently places her on the bed, his gaze sweeping over her attire. "I assume this is what you intended," he murmurs, his own robe shifting loosely. Leaning close, he adds that she isn't the kind of woman to act without reason. A blush warms Celestia's cheeks as a startling realization begins to dawn. Celestia's mind races as she lies on the bed. She had prepared for this. She was supposed to want this tonight. Count Rusbert Tristan's dark robe slips from his broad shoulders and pools on the floor. He moves over her, his gaze intense as he leans close and gently touches her platinum hair. He tells her that when they are finished, she will talk with him until the morning. The command, so different from what she expected, makes her breath catch. Her heart pounds against her ribs. Noticing her confusion, he asks softly, "Are you scared?" Count Rusbert Tristan gives her a final chance, his voice low as he tells her that if she is going to run, she should do it now. Celestia gazes up at him, her heart pounding. She thinks of her past, resolving that she will not push herself to the point of ruin again. "I won't run," she decides firmly. Whatever his true intentions are, and whatever this feeling in her chest means, she will face it. As he leans closer, she slowly raises a hand to his face, her touch gentle but resolute. In the soft glow of the bedroom, Count Rusbert Tristan leans over Celestia, his touch surprisingly tender against her skin. Her eyes flutter open to the soft light of dawn filtering into the grand bedroom. Morning really is here, she thinks, a sense of disbelief coloring her thoughts. She sits up, pulling the covers with her, and her breath catches. He's already awake, dressed in a robe, and sitting on the bed, watching her. A soft gasp escapes her lips as the reality hits. Last night, she realizes with a jolt, Count Rusbert Tristan's voice is firm, commanding Celestia to stay as she is. A memory of his intense gaze flashes in her mind, his words echoing a promise made. He wants to know everything, every single detail that shaped her into the woman she is today. Celestia clutches the sheets, the intimacy of the previous night dissolving into a cold, transactional morning. It feels as if their connection never happened. Rusbert confirms her fears, his tone detached as he states he has paid the price. A sense of resignation washes over her as she looks at him. "I understand," she says, her voice quiet. In a quiet study, a bespectacled man glances at the clock on the wall. It's almost time for the checkup. A maid greets Dr. William in the hall, asking if the other physician, Dr. Hayden, will also be coming. Dr. William smiles faintly, explaining that Dr. Hayden's last day has passed. He was told he alone would be sufficient. As he walks, his thoughts darken. He recalls Dr. Hayden making unwelcome advances towards Celestia at a party, and wonders if her recent illness was somehow his doing. A grim, powerful figure flashes in his memory. Dr. Williams stands outside the ornate bedroom door, his thoughts filled with a quiet hope for good results today. He knocks gently, announcing himself and asking permission to enter. Remembering Celestia's words, he hesitates, not wishing to intrude. He carefully cracks the door open, offering a pleasant good morning, only to be stopped in his tracks. Count Rusbert Tristan blocks the entrance, a formidable presence with his robe hanging open. The doctor's polite greeting falters as he takes in the sight. With a cold, unwavering gaze, Rusbert dismisses him. "Come back later," he commands, his voice low and absolute, explaining that Celestia still needs time to prepare. The door clicks shut, leaving the doctor stunned in the hallway. Count Rusbert Tristan turns away, dismissing the doctor with a cool command to go eat. He has no appetite himself. Soon after, he gallops on a dark horse through the misty woods, his cloak billowing behind him. His mind races, flashing back to a few hours ago. He remembers Celestia, her platinum hair fanned out on the pillow, and the way he gently touched her shoulder. A question haunts him. Did he push her too hard? The memory of her flushed expression, a mixture of passion and vulnerability, is seared into his mind. He can't shake the image. The memory of a former husband's insult echoes in Count Rusbert Tristan's mind, a cruel dismissal comparing Celestia to a doll. The thought ignites a cold fury within him. How dare that man speak such nonsense? Rusbert pictures what would happen now that Celestia knows how to respond with passion. The image of another man with her is unbearable, a sharp pain that makes him clutch his face. No one else needs to know about this change. He tightens his grip on the reins, his eyes glowing with fierce possession. She is his, and his alone, forever. As Count Rusbert Tristan rides, memories of Celestia's past haunt him. He recalls hearing of her former husbands, men who spent their nights with others, and how each one seemed more hideous than the last. It's an undeniable fact they scarred her. He pictures Celestia, her expression pained as she blames herself for failing to keep them. The memory fuels a cold, burning rage within him. He wonders which man hurt her the most. A dark promise forms in his mind. He cannot let them go unpunished. He will not forgive a single person who stole the light from her eyes. Count Rusbert Tristan grits his teeth, his mind racing. He had always avoided Celestia's festering past, specifically because he never wanted to know the details. But now, a burning obsession takes hold. He must know everything, what she told him and what she didn't, the facts and the lies. He will use any means necessary to uncover the whole truth. Back at the estate, Celestia sits quietly on a sofa. A maid informs her that Lord Rusbert left immediately after they spoke. A pensive look crosses Celestia's face as she contemplates their future, wondering what might happen if they continue to spend their nights together like this. Celestia drifts into a hopeful daydream, imagining a future of tender embraces with Count Rusbert Tristan. Her deepest wish escapes in a soft whisper, longing for the day she might finally be blessed with a child. Her peaceful moment shatters when a worried attendant approaches, holding a document. He stares at the paper in disbelief, his eyes wide with shock at the numbers written there. A cold fear grips him as he wonders what could have possibly been done to his lady. A new, unsettling face comes to mind, Dr. Hayden. Count Rusbert Tristan rides up to a grand estate, announcing his arrival. Inside, he is met by the second prince, Louis Arnold Ativant, who greets him with a wry smile. The prince is surprised to see him, noting it's the first time he's visited willingly, and teases him about missing a wedding. Rusbert's face remains stern as he explains there was no ceremony and no invitation. The prince's expression shifts, admitting he thought Rusbert was purposely keeping him away from his beloved Celestia before revealing his own favor. Rusbert's gaze turns intense as he requests the details and locations of all of Celestia's former husbands. A wry smile touches Prince Louis's lips. He finds the Count's request a bit intense, but appreciates his direct nature. Leading him to a lavish study, the prince reveals that he already investigated Celestia's past out of goodwill, a report Rusbert once furiously rejected. He slides a folder across the polished table, providing the very details the Count had previously scorned. The prince then delivers the crucial news. All four of Celestia's former husbands have already remarried. Rusbert's expression remains unreadable, his gaze fixed as he quietly processes the unsettling information. A pensive look crosses Prince Louis's face as he studies Count Rusbert. He once believed the Count's interest in the past husband stemmed from jealousy, but now he realizes something more complex troubles him. Leaning in, the prince lowers his voice, sharing a cruel rumor that haunts the court. They have a nickname for Celestia, the infertile marionette. An image of her appears, elegant and isolated, her long platinum hair cascading down her back as ethereal red strings bind her like a puppet. The nobles whisper this name because after 4 marriages, she remains without a child. The prince continues, asking if Rusbert has heard the other slander, that her former spouses couldn't keep up with her unusual demands. Rusbert's expression remains grim and unreadable. The prince concludes, suggesting he believes there is another meaning behind that cruel nickname. Prince Louis reveals the cruel nickname's origin. Her first husband, Chester Adrian, whose smug face appears in a hazy memory. He was the one who branded Celestia a marionette. He spread 2 conflicting rumors, that her private demands were too much to handle, and that she was merely a doll. All 3 subsequent husbands echoed his cruelty. A sorrowful vision shows Celestia tangled in ethereal strings, controlled by shadowy figures. The prince suggests the name holds a darker meaning, recalling how Chester complained that being with her was like holding a lifeless doll, an experience that left him cold. Prince Louis leans back, concluding that the public rumors about Celestia were likely fabricated. With a small smile, he attempts to reassure Rusbert, telling him not to worry about his own performance in their private moments. In a sudden burst of rage, Rusbert's fist slams down on the table. The violent impact sends a delicate teacup flying into the air. The prince's expression sobers as he looks at his friend. He asks why Rusbert always looks so grim, reminding him that he has finally married the woman he has loved for years. Prince Louis lets out a soft sigh, his gaze thoughtful. He admits he only played matchmaker because he was fascinated. He saw how desperately Rusbert loved one woman and wondered what would happen when such devotion finally bore fruit. Rusbert's shoulders slump. He expresses his gratitude, but his voice is hollow. A pained look crosses his face as he confesses that, in the end, he hurt Celestia, just like the husbands before him. A vision of her, clutching a blanket on their wedding night, fills his mind. He thinks of her desperate wish for a child and how 4 times she was cast aside, unable to capture anyone's heart. Roosbert's confession hangs heavy in the air, laced with regret. He reveals his terrible misjudgment. Amidst her suffering, he assumed Celestia had endless worldly demands. A painful memory surfaces of him rejecting her, foolishly thinking he could reform her. Instead, he only backed her into a corner. He treated her like an untamed creature, but now realizes with dawning horror that he was the monster. Prince Louis watches, his expression somber, as Roosbert spirals. The Count believes Celestia only saw him as a tool, a commoner with lowly blood who would be grateful for a noble's touch. Roosbert's twisted logic unfolds in a dark memory. He believed Celestia was so backed into a corner that she would accept even him. Prince Louis watches the Count's despair, the full, tragic picture finally clicking into place for him. "Ah, I see," he says softly. Later, another man meets Roosbert in a courtyard, handing over a file. He teases Roosbert about his temper, but then offers some genuine advice, his expression turning serious. He insists that Roosbert should really try to talk to Celestia properly. The Count looks away, annoyed but unable to argue. Roosbert's companion acknowledges the Count has put Celestia on a pedestal, but he gently reminds him that physical closeness isn't everything in a marriage. With a knowing smile, he suggests that if Celestia's true desire is for a child, Roosbert should simply grant her wish. But the Count's expression hardens. He cuts the conversation short, his voice low and cold. There is something he must do first. A chilling resolve burns in his eyes as he clenches his fist, vowing to track down every person who ever wronged her. He demands to know everything. What they said to her, what poison they planted in her mind. His friend watches, unsettled, wondering why he must go to such extremes. Roosbert's voice is low, laced with chilling resolve. If Celestia is truly the marionette others claim, he vows to deal with any man who taught her to feign affection in their private moments. His friend stares, utterly baffled. "Wait," he calls out as Roosbert swiftly mounts his horse, trying to understand. Was her so-called acting unconvincing? No, Roosbert replies over his shoulder, his expression grim. Quite the opposite. With a final, curt farewell, he rides away. The sound of hooves fades, leaving his friend alone to wonder if it was ever really an act at all. Count Roosbert Tristan rides toward his grand estate as the sun sets, his expression grim and resolute. His mind is not on his return, but on the information he's just acquired. Details about Celestia's former husbands. He plans to review the documents tonight, a dark purpose clouding his features. An aide greets him, asking where he has been. "I was visiting a friend," Roosbert answers coolly, mentioning he'll be out again on business tomorrow. His golden eyes then fall upon Celestia, who stands stiffly with the maids, welcoming him home. He gives her a fleeting glance before turning away. Celestia senses his distraction, her purple eyes filled with concern as she asks if something is the matter. "It's nothing," Count Roosbert Tristan says flatly, hiding the documents inside his vest. He questions himself for the secrecy. His goal is not shameful. He intends to make the men who wronged her pay for the rumors that torment her. A dark realization pierces his thoughts. He is also the one causing her pain. As his amber eyes fixate on her, she flinches, her voice barely a whisper, asking if he will reject her again tonight. Count Roosbert Tristan's voice is low and firm. "Tonight, I will come to your room again." He tells her to get ready and wait. Celestia's purple eyes widen in disbelief as she stammers her assent. The declaration echoes in her mind. He's staying with her? Just because she came to welcome him? A tender image fills her thoughts, a vision of them as a happy family, holding a child. A fragile hope blossoms. Later, as water streams down his back, Roosbert cleanses himself, his expression unreadable. In her own chambers, Celestia brushes her platinum hair, a soft, anticipatory smile on her face. A gentle hope blossoms in Celestia's mind as she prepares for the evening. Perhaps the day they are blessed with a child is not so far away. A faint blush dusts her cheeks as she remembers the marks he left on her skin the night before, a tender warmth spreading through her chest. This feeling is a world away from the deep despair that once consumed her. Slowly, things have improved. The estate staff has grown kinder, and she has found her footing in society. But it is Count Roosbert Tristan who truly occupies her thoughts now. Celestia's heart warms with a newfound hope. He had defended her. It was the first time anyone had truly believed in her. Her thoughts are cut short by a voice from the doorway. "I'm coming in." The door clicks open, and Count Rusbert Tristan steps inside, running a hand through his dark hair. His robe hangs open as he crosses the room and comes to a halt before her. The silence stretches, heavy and uncertain. Celestia looks up, her expression shifting from anticipation to concern. "Is something the matter?" she asks softly. Count Rusbert Tristan's answer is a low murmur. "No," he says, his intense gaze locking with hers. "You should only think about yourself." He closes the space between them, his hand coming to rest on her shoulder. Before Celestia can process his words, he pulls her back against his chest, his lips finding the delicate skin of her neck. A bitter thought consumes him, a belief that he has no place in her heart, that his only purpose is to provide an heir. His embrace tightens, a desperate and possessive hold. Count Rusbert Tristan's mind is consumed by a single, overwhelming purpose: to ensure Celestia bears an heir. That was his only reason for existing. He pictures her past misery, kneeling in despair before the faceless men she was once bound to. But he resolves to be different. If he can fulfill her wishes, then he will do whatever it takes. He hovers over her, his body casting a shadow. Celestia's breath catches, her purple eyes wide with surprise. Lord Rusbert," she whispers. His intense amber gaze meets hers, filled with a desperate, unwavering resolve. A soft gasp escapes Celestia's lips as warmth spreads through her. Her body feels like it's melting away, and her vision blurs until the world fades, leaving only him. His hand gently cradles her neck as he leans in close, his voice a low whisper. "Seals, does it hurt?" Lost in the haze, she manages a soft no, but the nickname echoes in her thoughts. His next question shatters the moment. "Do you find me disgusting?" Celestia's purple eyes widen in utter confusion, tears welling as she tries to understand him. "You don't have to pretend anymore," he murmurs. Tears trace paths down Celestia's cheeks, her purple eyes wide with vulnerable surprise. Suddenly, she feels another teardrop, one that isn't her own. Count Rusbert Tristan is crying, his face etched with an anguish she cannot comprehend. He collapses against her, burying his face in her hair. "I'm sorry," he chokes out, holding her tightly. His mind races, tormented by the thought of her silent suffering. "You were being wounded in a place I couldn't reach." His mind flashes with the vile rumors he once believed, an ugly image of Celestia surrounded by other men. But the false vision shatters, replaced by the devastating reality he now understands. Celestia, weeping and huddled on the cold floor, completely isolated in her suffering. A crushing wave of guilt washes over him. He realizes he has only added to her pain. A bright, warm memory that isn't his own surfaces, a kind young man reaching for her. The weight of his failure is too much, and he hunches over her, his voice breaking as he cries out her name. Celestia stirs as gentle morning light streams into the lavish bedroom. A knock echoes, and a man's voice calls out, wishing her a good morning and asking to enter. Startled, she sits bolt upright, clutching the blanket to her chest, her purple eyes wide with surprise. She looks down at herself, a flicker of confusion crossing her face as she realizes her clothes are back on. With Count Rusbert gone from the room, she pulls herself together. "It's all right," she calls out. "You may come in." The door opens to reveal a doctor, who greets her warmly. Celestia sits on the edge of the bed, her expression serene as she asks the doctor where Count Rusbert has gone. The doctor explains that he saw her husband leave early to take breakfast in his own room. A shadow of disappointment crosses Celestia's face as she looks down, her hands clasped tightly. Her mind drifts to the night before, a hazy image of Rusbert holding her close. She remembers a strange detail: he was crying again. While his tears surprised her, she focuses on the fact that he stayed with her until the very end. Compared to her previous husbands, that simple act is more than enough. A few weeks pass. Celestia sits opposite the doctor, her hands clasped in her lap. Her mind drifts to a quiet resolution she made. As long as Count Rusbert fulfills his nightly duties, she will ask for nothing more from their arrangement. The doctor's voice pulls her back to the present. He asks if her visit concerns her husband. "Yes," she replies, her purple eyes meeting his. He gently probes further, wondering if she's noticed anything unusual about Rusbert lately. The question makes her pause. "This morning," the doctor explains, "some of his subordinates came from the garrison." The doctor recounts the morning's events. Two of Rusbert's subordinates stand before the butler, their faces etched with concern. They ask for their captain, explaining he hasn't been to the garrison in several days, and they feared something had happened. Suddenly, Count Rusbert appears, his presence commanding. His men call out his name in relief, but his expression remains grim. He calmly informs them he will be taking a leave of absence for a while, delegating his duties. Shocked, they ask if he's unwell, but he simply denies it, insisting there's no need for concern. The doctor's concern deepens as he explains that even the butler is worried. Count Rusbert now isolates himself, taking all his meals in his room. A medical examination revealed no physical ailments, making his sudden reclusive behavior a complete mystery. He turns to Celestia, asking if she has noticed anything strange. Celestia hesitates, her purple eyes clouded with thought. She silently admits his behavior is strange. He now visits her room nearly every night. A drastic, unthinkable change. But the thought offers no comfort. Beyond those nightly duties, they share nothing. Celestia reflects on the bizarre shift in their circumstances. She now dines all by herself in the grand hall, feeling as though their positions have completely reversed. A fleeting, dark vision flashes through her mind. Count Rusbert, hunched over in a shadowy room, his hands pressed to his temples as if in great distress. Lady Celestia, the doctor's voice cuts through her thoughts, his brow furrowed with concern. He asks if something has come to mind. Startled, Celestia forces a smile. And no, it's nothing, she quickly dismisses, apologizing for her lapse. Celestia's mind races. He hasn't skipped his training, and their nights continue, a memory of Count Rusbert leaning over her flashing in her mind. It's a connection devoid of feeling, a duty performed in silence. A sudden, chilling thought strikes her, and she bites her finger nervously. When was the last time they actually made eye contact? In his private study, Count Rusbert is isolated and in turmoil. He sits hunched over, clutching his head in distress. Spread across his desk is an investigation report on Celestia, outlining the cruel patterns of her past husbands, their constant absences, their neglect, and their demeaning treatment. The weight of her previous suffering presses down on him. Celestia finds Count Rusbert in his study, his body hunched over in quiet turmoil. She hesitantly calls out his name, apologizing for disturbing his rest. He looks up, his intense, amber gold eyes meeting hers. Is it time for that already? He asks, his voice laced with a weary resignation. Though he feels he has no right to refuse, he rises from his seat. Celestia clarifies her purpose. She tells him she's been invited to a banquet hosted by Count Sharendal, and they were explicitly asked to attend as a couple. Seeing his stoic expression, she quickly adds that she will go by herself if he isn't feeling well, her heart sinking with the familiar thought that he's never attended one with her before. To Celestia's utter astonishment, Count Rusbert agrees. I'll get ready right away, he declares, his voice firm as he instructs her. Wait in your room. Completely taken aback, Celestia can only stammer a quiet yes. The heavy study door clicks shut, leaving her standing alone in the grand, silent hallway. She remains frozen, her mind racing to catch up. A blush rises on her cheeks as the realization sinks in. It felt like their eyes had truly met for the first time in what seemed like an eternity. He's actually coming with her. Standing alone in the grand hall, Celestia can hardly believe it. She thinks, a whirlwind of confusion clouding her mind. Her thoughts drift to the banquet's host, imagining a happy wife sending her husband off. Darling, where are you today? She might ask. With a gentle smile, Count Sharendal would reply he's off to his party, waving to his family. The sweet vision shatters, plunging her back into the cold, silent carriage. Across from her, Count Rusbert sits in darkness, his amber gold eyes glowing with an unnerving intensity. A murmur ripples through the grand hall as Count Rusbert Tristan enters with Celestia at his side, a rare sight that captures the attention of the attending nobles. An eager man approaches, his face bright with admiration. A pleasure to meet you, Count Rusbert, he says, praising the war hero's magnificent performance in the recent conflict. Standing quietly, Celestia feels a familiar pang of isolation. She thinks, her gaze falling to the floor. Count Rusbert Tristan silently endures the fawning nobles, dismissing the affair as a nuisance. He feels utterly out of place in high society and wishes only to leave with Celestia, caring little for his own reputation. His thoughts are interrupted when a man remarks how enviable it must be to have such a brilliant wife. At the mention of Celestia, Rusbert's amber gaze hardens instantly. Across the hall, a crowd of men now surrounds his wife, vying for her attention. Lady Celestia, please join me. One insists, as another argues. No, I was first. The nobles praise Celestia's remarkable skill at chess, eagerly inviting her to a match. As she sits at the board, A guest remarks how she is truly a wife worthy of a hero. The compliment reaches Count Rusbert Tristan, and his expression darkens. A hazy, unsettling memory surfaces, two young boys at a chessboard, an image that quickly twists into visions of Celestia playing with other men. The question echoes in his mind, sharp and confusing. A shadow falls over his face as his hand clenches into a tight fist. A bold voice slices through the air, calling Celestia's name. She turns, her expression frozen in surprise as a man with reddish-brown hair strides towards her. "Count Robert," she whispers. He greets her with a wide, smug smile, declaring it was worth coming just to see her. From across the room, Count Rusbert Tristan observes in silence, his expression hardening. Count Robert leans over Celestia's chair, telling her to finish her current match because he is her next opponent. His forwardness sparks murmurs. The rumors of their closeness must be true. Count Robert smirks, his voice carrying across the salon as he declares Celestia is the first woman in his life. The words slice through the air, and from a distance, Count Rusbert Tristan's eye flashes with a dangerous light. Robert quickly corrects himself with a laugh, clarifying she was merely the first to defeat him at chess. Another noble jest that if he'd met Celestia 30 years sooner, he'd have made her his wife. Alone in the crowd, Rusbert's hand clenches into a white-knuckled fist. A single, tormented question burns in his mind. From the shadows, Count Rusbert Tristan watches, a chasm separating him from his wife. Why, he wonders, is she always in a place so far beyond his reach? A bitter denial forms in his mind. Of course men swarm around her. No matter what rumors may taint her name, her ducal blood and stunning beauty are undeniable facts that will never change. Despair clouds his features. He should have known she was never someone he could truly possess. He sees himself as nothing, a man inferior even to her previous husbands. A chasm of despair separates Count Rusbert Tristan from his wife. In his mind, he sees her surrounded by her past husbands and is convinced he is the most inferior of them all. He looks down at his own scarred hands, a bitter reminder that he possesses no noble blood, no formal education. Only a savage lineage he feels is unworthy. The golden wedding band on his finger seems out of place. He now believes that even the very thought of reaching for her was a dream completely beneath him, and he shouldn't have come. A bitter acceptance settles over Count Rusbert Tristan. He realizes he never had the right to refuse this marriage. For someone like him, the very idea of defying Celestia was a mistake from the start. He recedes into the crowd, a shadow in his own life. Suddenly, his attention snaps across the room where a polite, smiling man with light green hair greets Celestia's father. Rusbert's face contorts with rage, his amber eyes flaring with intense hostility. That man, the young doctor. A furious thought sears through his mind. He heard the doctor was dismissed, so why is he still hovering around her? A cold suspicion grips Count Rusbert Tristan. His amber eyes narrow as he watches Celestia across the hall, the scene twisting in his mind. He questions if she and the doctor have been arranging secret meetings, wondering if this very event is one of their rendezvous. Suddenly, a venomous thought pierces him, an image of Celestia with a former husband, her voice a cruel echo in his memory. Compared to you, those two are more precious. A silent scream rips through him. No, anything but that. He cannot bear the thought of being replaced. A vision of a smiling, beloved face from her past, a past he had no part in, burns in Count Rusbert Tristan's mind. A silent scream erupts inside him. Not that. He will not be replaced. He will not be a memory. His boot slams down on the polished floor, and he crosses the grand hall in a few powerful strides. He closes the distance in an instant, pushing past the oblivious guests. The young doctor, mid-conversation, turns his head, a polite smile on his face. The smile vanishes as Rusbert appears before him, his expression one of pure, unrestrained fury. A few minutes earlier, a man with silver-green hair pauses in the grand hall, his gaze fixed on a distant figure. He can hardly believe his eyes. It's Lady Celestia. He watches her move a chess piece, a flicker of disdain in his expression. For a woman to be sitting at a game board in a place like this is improper, he thinks, yet he admits it's precisely why she's capturing everyone's attention. A calculating smile forms on his lips. This works in his favor. He'll use their relationship to have her introduce him to influential nobles. A sudden, imposing presence cuts through the crowded hall. The silver-green-haired man's eyes widen in disbelief. It's Count Rusbert, a man who rarely graces high society with his presence. Composing himself, he approaches with a strained smile, offering a hesitant greeting. Rosebert's intense golden eyes bore into him, his own greeting laced with ice. "What are you doing here?" he demands, his tone leaving no room for pleasantries. Before the man can stammer out a reply, Rosebert cuts him short with a single, cold command. "Come." He seizes the man's collar and firmly pulls him away. Count Rosebert pins the silver-green-haired man against a wall, his grip like iron. Panic flashes in the man's eyes. Does the Count know he was trying to get close to Lady Celestia? A cold dread washes over him. He fears this is the end. He desperately pleads for Rosebert to calm down, insisting there's been a misunderstanding. Rosebert's voice cuts through his stammering, low and chilling. "What is your relationship with Celestia?" The man freezes, completely stunned. He can't believe it. Has Celestia truly told him nothing? A drop of sweat traces down the man's temple, but a slight, confident smile forms on his lips. He can turn this situation around. He boldly flips the question back on Count Rosebert, asking what kind of relationship he, her own husband, has with Celestia. The accusation hangs heavy in the air as he recalls the desperate letter he passed along, the one Celestia wrote in her despair. He questions how Rosebert could drive her to that point. The Count's golden eyes widen in pure shock, leaving him speechless as the man declares he was simply there for Celestia when she was wounded. The man's accusations continue, each word a sharp blow. He reminds Count Rosebert that Celestia longs for a child, a wish the Count seems determined to ignore. Images of Celestia's profound sorrow flash by, her heartbroken expression, her face reflected in a shattered mirror. He questions if Rosebert is truly the person she needs in her life. Rosebert's jaw tightens, a flicker of anguish crossing his face. He knows her pain better than anyone. The other man turns away, his duty done. He sees Celestia smiling among the guests and decides to leave, relieved to see her enjoying herself. The man's thoughts twist with a dark satisfaction. As Celestia's circle of friends expands, he muses, so will her world. He imagines her finding a new, charming partner, someone who truly understands her. A cruel thought crosses his mind. Let the empty marionette enjoy herself while she can. He turns to Count Rosebert, offering a final piece of advice as her former doctor. If the Count ever wishes to bind Celestia's heart to his by having a child, he warns, now is his only and final chance. The doctor's final words strike Count Rosebert like lightning. The thought consumes him, a desperate lifeline. But the doctor's venomous whisper continues, painting a future where Celestia leaves him for that man before bearing his child. An image of her with someone else flickers in his mind, a vision of abandonment that makes him bow his head in sorrow. The doctor smirks, knowing it's a difficult path for the Count, especially since Celestia has already taken her medicine. He turns away, a flicker of disappointment in his eyes, thinking it a shame he couldn't turn her to his advantage. A chilling thought grips Count Rosebert as he stands alone. He should feel relieved he was allowed to walk away, but a far worse fate dawns on him. He will be thrown away. The realization crystallizes with a single name, by Celestia. The weight of it sends him stumbling against a door, his breath catching in his throat. How is he only seeing this now? In her eyes, he is nothing. As this truth settles, a bitter memory flashes through his mind. Men shouting in outrage, declaring that a woman meddling in a gentleman's pastime like chess is a joke. The memory floods Count Rosebert's mind with the force of a tidal wave. An enraged Duke lunges toward a silent, seated Celestia, his voice echoing with contempt. He declares that no matter how strong she is still just a woman and has no place in their pastimes. A wave of self-loathing crashes over Rosebert as the memory plays. He sees his own face from that day, twisted with the same arrogance, pointing an accusing finger at her. I said the same things to Seals, he realizes, his hand clenching into a trembling fist. The Duke's fury turns on him, but Rosebert's younger self shoots out a hand, gripping the man's arm and stopping him cold. The bitter memory fades, replaced by the chilling reality of the present. As the belligerent Duke reaches for Celestia, a cold, commanding voice cuts through the tension. Apologize. Count Rosebert stands there, his expression a mask of thunderous rage. The Duke flinches, muttering about the war-mad Count, before stammering in confusion. But Rosebert's patience is gone. He grabs the man's collar, his voice rising in a furious command. Apologize for insulting my wife. Right this moment. Celestia stares, her purple eyes wide with disbelief. Her heart pounds against her ribs. Count Rosebert Tristan's voice cuts through the room, filled with a cold fury. He seizes a nobleman by his collar, demanding he apologize for insulting his wife this very moment. From her seat, Celestia can only stare, her purple eyes wide with shock. Terrified, the man stammers his sincerest apologies, admitting he got carried away. A memory surfaces of that man's gentle concern, his wistful remark that he would have taken her as his wife if they had met sooner. Now, as the offender bows low, Rusbert watches over the scene, his golden eyes sharp and possessive. Count Rusbert Tristan abruptly announces it is time to go. His hand closes firmly around Celestia's wrist, pulling her from her seat. Startled, she looks up at him, her purple eyes wide with confusion as she asks where they are going. He strides toward the exit without a word, his grip unyielding. Panic sets in as she realizes he intends to leave the party entirely. "Please wait," she pleads, grabbing his arm. To her surprise, he actually halts, demanding to know what she wants. Celestia explains they still have duties to attend to. Her plea is laced with desperation as she reminds him that the ball isn't over. They must uphold their etiquette as representatives of House Tristan. After a tense silence, Count Rusbert Tristan reluctantly agrees with a single, clipped word. A quiet sigh of relief escapes her lips just as a nobleman with reddish-brown hair approaches, his expression full of concern. Celestia quickly composes herself, apologizing for any commotion before introducing her husband. The man's eyes widen as he greets the legendary hero, mentioning he has heard much about his achievements and the rumors surrounding him. The nobleman laughs, remarking that while the rumors about the Count are intimidating, he knows Celestia is quite ruthless herself, especially when she overpowers him at chess. A faint, polite smile touches Celestia's lips as she greets her old friend. But the simple word hangs in the air, echoing in Count Rusbert Tristan's mind. An image of two children playing the game flashes through his memory. Instantly, his face darkens. The nobleman, sensing the sudden chill, laughs nervously and makes a hasty retreat, encouraging the Count to enjoy the ball with his lovely wife. The rest of the evening passes in a tense hush. As their carriage rattles through the night, Celestia sits in quiet contemplation. Count Rusbert Tristan hardly spoke another word after that encounter, yet he remained by her side until the very end. Her thoughts drift back to his strange behavior. He refused to meet anyone's gaze, his replies clipped and minimal, actions easily mistaken for disrespect. A wave of regret washes over her. Maybe it would have been better if they had simply gone home. But she dismisses the thought. Despite everything, he stayed. He didn't leave her alone. Count Rusbert Tristan's voice cuts through the heavy silence. He asks if she plays chess, specifically with the men from the ball. Celestia, taken aback by the coldness in his tone, answers that yes, she has been invited to play from time to time. His mind flashes back to a distant memory. A bright, cheerful boy with blonde hair holds up a chess piece, calling out to a younger Rusbert. He teases him for being clumsy and lacking stamina, suggesting chess is a more fitting pastime. The memory ends on the image of young Rusbert's face, his amber gold eyes welling with tears. The memory sharpens in Count Rusbert Tristan's mind. A bright-eyed boy with blonde hair kneels before a chessboard, suggesting it could be something for just the two of them to share. He urges a young Rusbert to learn, to make it their special game. Hope blossoms on young Rusbert's face, and he agrees with a burst of pure joy. But the warmth of that sunlit memory vanishes, replaced by the carriage's cold, heavy silence. Count Rusbert Tristan's expression is unreadable as he states his assumption that chess is not a game for women. The unspoken question lingers. Why must she play it with others? Confusion clouds Celestia's eyes. He protected her before, but now his words only build another wall between them. A profound sadness settles over Celestia. In the end, he is just like everyone else. She dismisses her passion aloud, calling it a trivial hobby. The word stuns Count Rusbert Tristan. Trivial? The term ignites a painful memory for Celestia. A former husband, his face twisted with fury after losing a game of chess, declaring he had no need for a wife who brought him shame. Understanding dawns on Rusbert's face. So that's it. He realizes her skill was the reason she was discarded, a fear that mirrors a ghost from his own past. A silent frustration simmers within Count Rusbert Tristan. He chides himself for his anger, reasoning that he has no right to be upset if chess is now trivial to her. The woman he once knew as Seals, he reminds himself, is not the same as the Celestia before him now. As they enter the grand mansion, Celestia's weary voice cuts through the quiet. She asks if he plans to visit her again tonight. Count Rusbert Tristan simply meets her gaze, his expression unreadable, and commands her to wait in her room. Count Rusbert Tristan leans over Celestia, a deep unease settling in him as he wonders why she is acting so strangely. He stops short when he sees it, a single tear escaping her closed eye. His concern turns to sheer terror when a glint of steel appears, held far too close. "Celestia!" he cries out, lunging forward to catch her hand. He carefully removes the dangerous object from her grasp before pulling her into a desperate, trembling embrace. Holding her tightly against his chest, a broken apology escapes his lips. "I'm sorry." The doctor concludes his checkup, thanking Celestia for her cooperation. He reviews his clipboard with a concerned expression, noting that her vitals are unchanged. He gently asks if she is certain she's feeling all right, if there have been any changes to her condition. Celestia's purple eyes are hollow as she gives a single, empty reply. None. But her mind is a storm, replaying fragmented memories from the night before. She recalls Count Rusbert apologizing, only to pull away moments later, telling her it was enough and that she should return to her room to rest. A painful memory haunts Celestia. A man's cruel voice echoes in her mind, declaring he has no need for a wife who damages his pride. She remembers her own tearful apology. Back in the present, the doctor offers a kind ear, promising he is always there to listen. But his gentleness only sharpens her pain. Hope shatters within her as she curls into herself. A devastating realization dawns on her. Count Rusbert is just like him. She understands now that his cold rejection stems from something as simple as disliking his wife playing chess. Celestia lies in her bed, covering her tear-wet face with her hands. She feels pathetic, wondering why something so small can make her feel this miserable. His opinion of her shouldn't matter. Her only purpose is to continue the line. But a chilling thought surfaces. What if he doesn't come to her room anymore? The memory of his sharp gaze, his words about her charms, floods her mind. Why do his feelings suddenly matter so much to her now? Clutching her chest, she questions the profound ache in her heart. A painful question echoes in Celestia's mind. Why is she suffering so much? A distorted memory of Count Rusbert's closeness surfaces, leaving her more confused than ever. She no longer understands her own heart. Curling up in bed, she clutches her pillow as tears stream down her face, a desperate, whispered plea for help escaping her lips. In another room, Count Rusbert sits on the edge of his bed, his posture heavy. A servant informs him that the lady will be having breakfast in her room. He quietly acknowledges the news, his gaze distant as his mind drifts back to that time. A painful memory surfaces in Count Rusbert's mind. He sees Celestia, her expression sorrowful as she raises a hand to push him away. The thought echoes with sharp clarity. She rejected him. Of course she would. He reasons. Who would want to be comforted after such a bitter argument? But a deeper fear consumes him. If things continue like this, she'll be the one to throw him away. He runs a hand through his hair, his composure cracking. The servant's voice pulls him back. "My lord." Rusbert quickly masks his feelings. "It's nothing," he says, dismissing him. Count Rusbert's thoughts spiral into a storm of self-loathing. This, he believes, is the price for his own petty jealousy. Painful memories flicker through his mind. Celestia smiling brightly with that man, her deep desire for a child he failed to give her. He sees himself as nothing but a crude former mercenary, unable to bring her joy. The memory of her past smiles is a stark contrast to the tears that now fall whenever he tries to comfort her. Clutching his head in despair, he questions what value he could possibly have for her. Count Rusbert Tristan slumps in his chair, head buried deep in his hands, utterly lost. He questions what is left for him to possibly do. Elsewhere, Celestia sits primly as a servant presents a dark green envelope. "An invitation?" she asks, her voice soft. The servant confirms it was delivered personally by a messenger from her father. A chill settles over her as she takes it. Inside is an invitation to a wedding party, triggering a haunting memory of a past letter declaring this her final duty. The time has come, and she panics, realizing she is yet to tell Rusbert anything. A soft no escapes Celestia's lips. She remembers writing a desperate plea in her will, asking him to attend her father's wedding. But she wonders if Rusbert even remembers receiving it. That request feels hollow now, written when she believed her life was over. Closing her eyes, she touches her temple, exhausted by the thought of asking him for anything. She stands, a new resolve settling in. Before she can make any request, she must first apologize for their conflict last night and beg for his forgiveness. It's a delicate, strategic move. A painful memory surfaces, reminding Celestia of past criticisms and failures. It feels only logical that Count Rusbert Tristan would disapprove of her as well. Yet, she recalls how he stood by her at the party, a thought that deepens her regret. She cannot let things fall apart over their fight. Steeling her resolve, she seeks him out, asking a servant for his whereabouts. He's at the training grounds. A wave of apprehension washes over her. She wonders how she can possibly face him as he stands under the open sky, sword in hand. In the hazy steam of a bath, Count Rusbert Tristan's expression crumbles into one of pure anguish. He decides he must stop interfering in Celestia's life, questioning what good it does to push her any further. He feels utterly lost, his mind consumed by a single, desperate question. What can he possibly do for her? An image of her face appears in his thoughts, and he clenches his fist, tormented. He wonders how he can possibly keep their fragile relationship from shattering completely as a tear streaks down his cheek. Celestia cautiously approaches her husband's training grounds for the very first time. She peeks around a corner, her purple eyes widening in absolute shock at the scene before her. With explosive force, a bare-shouldered Count Rusbert Tristan shatters a wooden training dummy, his sword moving faster than her eyes can follow. Awe washes over her as she watches his display of raw power. She finds him incredible, recalling that he earned his high station starting as a simple mercenary, a fact now powerfully on display before her captivated gaze. As Celestia watches, her admiration deepens. She imagines the sheer effort and the endless hours he must have dedicated to his craft. Her gaze drifts over his scarred back, and for the first time, she notices it's covered in old marks. A pang of sympathy strikes her, wondering if the old wounds still cause him pain. Suddenly, her heart lurches, racing in her chest. A faint blush warms her cheeks as she questions the confusing feeling. Just then, his voice cuts through the air. "How long do you plan on standing there watching?" Count Rusbert asks without turning around. He reminds her that she should just come in if she needs something, leaving her completely startled. Startled, Celestia clutches her dress. Count Rusbert turns, his intense gaze locking onto hers as he asks why she is there. She stands before his towering, muscular form, her mind racing. She decides she must start by begging for his forgiveness. Her hands tremble as she clasps them tightly in front of her. A wave of exhaustion washes over her. She has given so many apologies in her life that she has grown sick of them. Nevertheless, she lowers her head in submission, quietly telling him how sorry she is for disturbing his training. Her head remains bowed, a silent admission of shame. Celestia can't bring herself to look him in the eye. She stammers, trying to explain that she needs to talk to him about the previous night, confessing how rudely she behaved. As she thinks about forcing him to the party for her own selfish reasons, painful memories flood her mind. The cruel words of a past suitor echo, warning she would be the one thrown away. Another voice cuts deeper, accusing her of making excuses and calling her a puppet. The weight of past condemnations paralyzes her, and the words die on her lips. A sharp command slices through her spiraling thoughts. Count Rusbert shouts, telling her not to apologize. Celestia's head snaps up, her purple eyes wide with shock. His gaze is intense, his expression strained as he insists she did nothing wrong. The unexpected words leave her speechless. A painful memory surfaces for him, a time when he believed their past meant nothing to her. At the same moment, Celestia recalls her own agonizing history, a blur of endless apologies to men she could never satisfy, losing herself in the process. Count Rusbert's voice cracks with anguish as he declares he's the one who hurt her. His mind flashes to a tormented wish for her to lash out at him instead of silently enduring until she breaks. Celestia stares back, her purple eyes wide with utter confusion. He demands to know when he ever told her she had to endure anything. He yells that she should have insulted him, told the lowly mercenary to shut his mouth. A stunning realization dawns on Celestia as she watches him. He isn't blaming her. Overwhelmed, Rusbert runs a hand through his hair. With a heavy step, Count Rusbert declares that this is why she must use him. He leans close, his voice cracking with desperation as he pleads for her to use him as much as she wants, as a guard, a decoration, or a servant. It doesn't matter. Celestia's purple eyes widen, stunned by his fervent vow. He promises to clear away anyone who belittles her for her interests. A memory flashes, Rusbert, cold and protective, stopping a man who bothered her. She remains silent, the realization dawning. "So," he shouts, gesturing emphatically to his own chest. Count Rusbert stares, his amber eyes wide with shock as Celestia's trembling voice fills the air. She pleads with him to stay with her, truly, as husband and wife. Seeing his frozen expression, Celestia's own face crumples in fear. She flinches back, demanding to know what she did wrong this time. No, he says quickly, it's not that. Suddenly, a profound realization hits Celestia, and fresh tears spill from her eyes. This man is nothing like her second husband. Overwhelmed by the raw emotion between them, Rusbert runs a hand through his hair, his voice cracking as he simply says, I'm sorry. A soft smile touches Celestia's lips as she gently reminds Count Rusbert Tristan not to apologize. He can only stare, his amber eyes fixed on her as a radiant, tearful glow transforms her expression. Seeing a fragile hope in his stunned silence, she takes a breath and asks him to attend an upcoming party with her. The thought echoes in her mind. This man is truly different from all the husbands she's had before. Standing before the powerful war hero, she asks if he will finally stand beside her and give her his support. In a grand hall, a servant carefully lifts a gilded portrait of Celestia from its place on the wall. Another aide turns to her father, the Duke, with a troubled expression. He asks if he is certain, reminding him that while dealing with a previous wife's portrait is one thing, Lady Celestia is still alive. The Duke's face darkens, his voice cold and resolute as he declares that he does not care. A cruel, calculating glint appears in his eyes. In his mind, her fate is sealed. She no longer has a place in this house. Celestia sits quietly, her fingers tracing the pages of a book on chess. A strange and welcome peace washes over her. Even with her father's wedding approaching, her heart feels calm. A maid arrives with another letter, and Celestia offers a soft thank you. She reflects that while her father has pushed her aside, she no longer feels adrift in the world. Invitations from the Chess Society and even Rusbert have given her a new sense of place. Ever since his apology, he has fulfilled his duties, and in those moments of deepening connection, she has found fragile belonging. Celestia's eyes well with a fragile emotion. She admits to herself that she still doesn't understand anything about Rusbert. And yet, a gentle hope blooms in her heart. In the sunlit courtyard, she gathers her courage and asks if he would be willing to help her. He agrees without a moment's hesitation, promising to keep the day free. A quiet "thank you" escapes her lips. After a moment of silence, he asks if there's anything else. Startled, Celestia says no, and he excuses himself, turning to walk away. As Celestia watches him depart, a soft, hopeful smile graces her lips. A memory flashes in her mind of his bare, scarred back turning from her, his intense amber eyes watching her from a distance. The memory is filled with a strange mix of longing and apprehension. Later, an attendant hands Rusbert a thick envelope. From the palace, you say? He asks, his voice low. The attendant confirms it is from the second prince, Louis. Rusbert's brow furrows as he takes the package. He opens it, his expression shifting as he pulls out a sheaf of papers. They are not a simple letter, but investigation documents. Rusbert's amber eyes scan the report from Prince Louis, which details new findings on Celestia's former husbands. A separate, personal note offers a tasteless suggestion about his private duties. A vein throbs on Rusbert's temple. His hand clenches, crumpling the paper into a tight ball. He casually tosses it into the fireplace, watching the flames consume the prince's impertinent words. Returning to the main document, his expression hardens. It reveals all of Celestia's past partners now live far away, none close enough for a visit. He realizes someone else was involved. A chilling smile touches his lips. Rusbert sits alone, lost in the contents of the report. He reflects on his own coldness, avoiding their private duties, staying away from the house. A bitter thought crosses his mind. He is just like the men before him. A painful memory surfaces of Celestia, tears in her eyes, rejecting him. He realizes that making her cry like that perhaps makes him even worse than them. His hand clenches the paper in a moment of self-reproach. As he continues reading, his eyes widen. Hidden within the text is new information about a doctor. The report on the doctor is surprisingly thorough, detailing events that happened even after his dismissal. Rusbert's eyes scan the page, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face. Is this level of scrutiny truly normal among the nobility? The investigation reveals the man has already remarried to a woman younger than Celestia and even has a child. A low growl escapes Rusbert's lips as he curses the man, calling him a shameless old fool. Then, a date catches his eye. Wedding invitations sent in October. A cold dread washes over him. That was when Celestia reached her breaking point. A memory flashes through Rusbert's mind. Celestia, asking him to a party. The report in his hands reveals a devastating truth. Her father, the Duke, has long been obsessed with securing a male heir, a need that intensified after his first wife's passing 14 years ago. Rusbert's breath catches. That was the very year Celestia left her village. He understands now. Her entire life was a relentless education and duty, all for the sake of continuing the family line. He finally grasps the true reason for her desperation. It wasn't just her own wish. She was pushed to a breaking point, believing even the heir of a beast like him would be enough. A wave of crushing regret washes over Count Rusbert Tristan. He slumps in his chair, a hand pressed to his forehead as his thoughts storm with self-recrimination. He had absolutely no understanding of the suffocating pressures she faced within the nobility. If only I had realized sooner, he laments to himself. A painful memory surfaces, Celestia's desperate cry that if she couldn't be with him, then anyone would do. His fist clenches tight. The reason she made that terrible choice, it wasn't just because of him. The scene shifts, the oppressive darkness giving way to a sunlit garden party. At a sun-drenched garden party, Celestia's father, the Duke, stands proudly with his new wife. Guests offer congratulations, whispering among themselves that the merchant's daughter has played her cards well, already expecting an heir. The Duke smirks, privately lamenting the grief his useless daughter has caused him, thinking that he can now finally find peace. His triumphant thought is cut short by a sharp, commanding voice. "Hey!" The Duke's smug expression vanishes, replaced by wide-eyed shock. He turns to find Count Rusbert Tristan looming over him, Celestia standing silently by his side. The Duke's polite words of thanks are cut short as Count Rusbert Tristan suddenly grabs him by the collar. "We need to talk," Rusbert demands, his expression a mask of raw fury. In his mind, he sees the Duke not as a father, but as the very man who took Celestia from him. A vision of her youth flashes before him, a bright smile dimming under her father's controlling hands. A dark resolve solidifies in Rusbert's gaze. He vows he will not stand by and let this man do as he pleases with her, pulling Celestia into a fierce, possessive embrace. At her father's wedding reception, guests murmur among themselves. They gossip about the Duke's new bride, a woman 20 years younger and already expecting a child. Suddenly, all eyes turn as Celestia arrives, taking Count Rusbert Tristan's offered hand. Whispers follow them as they walk, the crowd noting how complicated it must be to have a stepmother younger than oneself. As the stinging comments fill the air, Rusbert's jaw tightens beside her. Later, they sit in the heavy silence of their carriage. Celestia finally speaks, her voice quiet. "Lord Rusbert, today's party was my father's wedding reception." Count Rusbert Tristan's expression remains steady as he replies, "I see." Celestia looks down, her hands clasped in her lap. She offers a sincere apology for only telling him at the last second, explaining that she simply found it too difficult to say. Her voice is soft as she confesses her father commanded her to bring the renowned hero to the party, framing it as her final duty to her family. Rusbert's eyes widen. He realizes in a flash that her father used her to manipulate him. A dark fury flashes across his face as he thinks, that man never learns. In the quiet of the carriage, Celestia lowers her gaze, expressing her sincere gratitude for him enduring the event with her. Count Rusbert Tristan listens, his expression unreadable. He cuts through her apology, coldly asking if his mere presence secured her father's reputation. Startled, Celestia quietly confirms it. A dangerous glint flashes in Rusbert's amber eyes. Then after that, he declares, his voice low and final, "I'll be doing exactly as I please." The chilling promise hangs between them as they later walk through the gossiping crowd, his words echoing in her mind. Whispers follow Celestia through the crowd, branding her a poor thing who must have finally given up. But a silent fire burns within her. She thinks she can bear their mockery about her past marriages, but the rumor that she can no longer have children is a deeper pain. A defiant scream echoes in her mind. Suddenly, a firm hand grasps her shoulder. Count Rusbert Tristan pulls her close. Her purple eyes fly open in shock. His strong arm wraps around her, silencing the venomous whispers in an instant. Count Rusbert Tristan leans close, his voice a low rumble, asking if she feels unwell. Stunned by the sudden display of concern, Celestia looks up, her purple eyes wide with confusion, and manages to say that she is fine. Her mind whirls. Across the garden, she spots her father laughing with his associates. A bitter memory surfaces, his cruel voice declaring her an incompetent daughter. But another voice slices through the past, sharp and unyielding. "Hey!" It is Rusbert, interrupting him, a dangerous expression on his face. Count Rusbert Tristan's chilling gaze falls upon Celestia's father. The Duke, stammering, tries to offer a polite greeting, but Rusbert swiftly cuts him off, his hand gripping the older man's shoulder. He leans in close, snarling that they need to talk. The Duke flinches, sweating, as guests whisper about the war-mad Count. A furious thought flashes through Rusbert's mind. He had warned this man not to fill Celestia's head with nonsense. While the Duke dismisses his daughter's pain, Rusbert's conviction is absolute. She would never exaggerate. Rusbert's voice cracks with fury, his hand gripping the hilt of his sword. He accuses Celestia's father of suppressing her, pushing her until she was seen as a mere marionette, only to use her again for his own gain. With a sharp ring of steel, he draws his blade, the polished surface reflecting the Duke's terrified expression. He's drawing his sword in a place like this? Celestia thinks, horrified. She begs him to stop, but her words are lost to his chilling ultimatum. If her father values his life, Rusbert declares, he will swear to never interfere with Celestia again. Celestia stands frozen, a single thought echoing in her mind. He's doing this for me. Rusbert's voice cuts through the tension, declaring that she is now a member of the Tristan family. His eyes burn with intensity as he lays out his terms. Even if Celestia were to give him an heir, her father is to never interfere. Face to face with a naked blade, the Duke's composure shatters. He trembles, stammering, "I promise." With the vow secured, Rusbert sheathes his sword with a decisive click, his cold authority absolute. With his public duties fulfilled, Count Rusbert Tristan turns sharply, his expression cold and unreadable. He tells Celestia it is time to leave, his voice devoid of any warmth. As she follows, her steps falter. She turns back one last time, her gaze meeting a man from her past whose face is etched with sorrow. He offers his congratulations, his voice heavy. Celestia accepts with a gentle, final thank you, a quiet acknowledgement of everything she is leaving behind. Her father can only watch, stunned into silence by the poignant farewell. A woman's voice offers a parting wish, hoping Celestia finds happiness. The sincerity of the words startles Celestia, who marvels at her own newfound peace. As she stands beside Count Rusbert Tristan, cruel whispers ripple through the crowd, speculating that she has finally given up on motherhood. They have no idea he just protected her from that very fate. The realization dawns, and a genuine, tearful smile brightens her face. In this moment, amidst the judgment, she is overwhelmingly glad that this man is by her side. A murmur of disbelief ripples through the wedding reception guests. They whisper amongst themselves, stunned that Count Rusbert would publicly sever ties with another noble. Speculation runs wild, with some wondering what the Duke did to provoke the infamous war hero. Others immediately point their fingers at his wife, suggesting Celestia must have been rude to her husband again. One woman defends her, reminding her friend that Celestia is now called the goddess of chess, and gestures toward the couple. Rusbert stands with Celestia, his arm resting on her shoulder. Internally, he grows restless, wondering how much longer he must endure the party. He glances at his wife, noting she hasn't said a word since the incident. He admits to himself it's only natural, considering he drew his sword on her father in front of everyone. Rusbert is certain Celestia must think he is a barbaric man. His thoughts are interrupted when a young nobleman approaches them with a warm smile, greeting Celestia and mentioning their chess match. But the man's cheerful expression freezes when he catches Rusbert's intense, possessive glare. Fear flashes in his eyes, and he hastily excuses himself. Rusbert fumes silently. A dark memory of him and Celestia sitting in strange silence haunts him. He will not let that distance grow between them again. A gentle touch on his arm brings him back. Celestia's soft voice asks if something is the matter. He stares, bewildered by her concern, and promises to greet the man for her later. He watches her calm face, surprised that she isn't angry at all. Rusbert observes his wife, thinking her calm demeanor is incredibly strange. A group of ladies calls out to Celestia, waving warmly. He asks if she knows them, and she explains they met at a previous party and wanted to discuss chess. Celestia hesitates, casting a nervous glance his way, worried the topic will bore him. After a moment of silence, he surprises her, apologizing and encouraging her to go speak with them. Before she can fully process his words, Rusbert suddenly lunges past her, confronting the other nobleman and demanding to know how he got in. The nobleman smiles smugly, explaining he used a subordinate's connection to get in. Panic flashes across Rusbert's face as he orders the man to go home, warning him that if the prince is discovered here, The Royce family will surely exploit him. But the prince is unconcerned, simply stating he saw the Royce wedding notice in an investigation report and grew worried. Rupert stares, baffled, asking why he would be worried. The prince's smile turns sharp as he reveals the party is filled with Celestia's past connections, all the men she was forced to marry. Rupert freezes, the horrifying truth crashing down. The prince gestures towards a smug nobleman, identifying him as Edgar Darden, Celestia's third husband. He reveals a devastating truth. The vicious rumors that plague her were started by her former spouses, all to protect their business dealings with her own father. The Duke sacrificed his daughter's honor for profit, leaving her utterly alone to face the fallout. As this cruel history sinks in, a storm of raw fury gathers in Rupert's eyes, his jaw tightening. The prince calmly watches his friend's silent rage build before calling out his name. The prince's voice is a low, steady anchor in the storm of Rupert's rage. He warns his friend that this is high society, a place where words are weapons and brute force will only reflect poorly on Lady Celestia. Rupert trembles, his fists clenched tight as he fights to control the inferno within him. From a distance, a man with spectacles coolly observes Celestia, committing her face to memory. Later, as Celestia walks alone, a voice calls out her name. "Celestia? So you came." She turns, her smile faltering into a look of absolute shock. An inhuman, clawed hand reaches toward her from the shadows. A familiar voice, sharp and cruel, cuts through the party's gentle murmur. It is Edgar Darden, her third husband, his smile a venomous greeting. He asks if her night hobby is as active as ever, his words a public condemnation. Celestia's spirit falters as she begs him to stop the misleading lies. He scoffs, his voice rising for the crowd to hear, accusing her of endless affairs. As he speaks, Celestia remembers the truth. It was he who never came home, he who sought comfort elsewhere. But her denial is a silent scream, swallowed by despair. It doesn't matter. No one will ever believe her. Tears well in Celestia's eyes, her spirit crushed under the weight of public shame. Just as despair threatens to consume her, a figure shields her from the hateful gazes. It is Count Rupert. His voice cuts through the stunned silence, a chilling declaration that his wife, Celestia, is not the woman Edgar describes. He commands Edgar to retract his insult immediately. Celestia stares, completely bewildered, her heart stammering in her chest. This cold, distant husband is defending her. With a condescending smirk, Edgar offers a false apology that only twists the knife deeper. Edgar raises his glass with a condescending smile, adding he's glad to be free. But before another word escapes his lips, Count Rupert seizes his wrist, causing the glass to tip and spill. With a voice as cold as ice, Rupert corrects him. The number of broken marriages is 4, he states, and there will not be a 5th. As he glares at the man, an image of Celestia fills his mind, beautiful, intelligent, and brave. A woman he has no intention of ever letting go. Leaning closer, his amber eyes glowing with intensity, he warns Edgar that he will be watching. Celestia stares at her husband's back, her mind reeling with confusion. Why would this man, who treats her with such coldness, defend her so fiercely? Count Rupert's voice cuts through her thoughts, calling her name. Startled, she stammers a reply. Later, a messenger interrupts her solitude, presenting a confidential letter with strict instructions to open it only when she is alone. Puzzled, Celestia examines the unmarked envelope. Inside, she finds a single, elegant line of script. Elsewhere, a sudden, inexplicable chill runs through Rupert, making him wonder if he's catching a cold. As the staff welcomes them home, Count Rupert Tristan helps Celestia from the carriage. Holding her hand, his thoughts turn grim. He knows the cruel slander against her continues, relentless and ugly. He realizes her marriage to him has done nothing to silence the rumors, and a dark suspicion takes root. Her ex-husbands are still spreading these lies. A chilling resolve settles in his eyes. He must erase their influence. Suddenly, Celestia stumbles. Rupert catches her instantly, his arm wrapping securely around her waist. "My apologies," he murmurs. Looking up, surprised, she sincerely thanks him for everything. A gentle smile graces Celestia's lips. His support has given her profound courage. Count Rupert Tristan watches her, a faint blush warming his cheeks, though his mind is consumed by his grim objective. He realizes he cannot leave her side just yet. It would take days to reach his targets. For now, he will stay. Celestia then speaks, tentatively asking if it's time he returned to the mercenary guild. The question lands like a physical blow. His mind spirals, Does she want him out of the house? He turns to her, his voice tight, asking if she already loathes the very sight of him. Celestia lowers her gaze, explaining that she has personal matters to attend to, including a doctor's visit concerning her duty to continue the line. Although she believes her chances are slim, an unexpected sense of peace fills her heart. Smiling softly, she insists Count Rusbert Tristan is free to go, thanking him for all he's done. He misinterprets her words entirely, seeing a perfect opportunity to pursue his grim agenda. I see, he says, agreeing to depart tomorrow. A blush creeps onto Celestia's face as she stammers, but tonight. He stops, turning to face her. What is it? He asks. Celestia's courage crumbles. And nothing. She blurts out, averting her eyes. But she can't let the moment pass. Gathering herself, she asks softly if he would consider having dinner with her tonight. Count Rusbert Tristan seems taken aback by the simple request, but after a brief pause, he agrees. A wave of shock washes over Celestia. Her heart hammers against her ribs. All she truly wanted was to ask him to stay with her, but the words felt too shameful to speak. A warm memory of their private nights together flashes through her mind, deepening the blush on her cheeks. As they sit for dinner in the grand hall, an awkward silence hangs between them. The clinking of cutlery is the only sound that fills the cavernous room. Celestia's thoughts race, her heart fluttering with a nervousness she can't contain. Count Rusbert Tristan glances up, his amber eyes locking onto hers. Is something the matter? He asks, his voice cutting through the tension. Celestia quickly shakes her head. No, she replies, then admits. I was just thinking about how beautifully you eat. A flicker of surprise crosses his face. He humbly dismisses the compliment, explaining that a friend taught him basic etiquette simply so he wouldn't cause embarrassment in high society. A memory surfaces of his friend specifically warning him not to shame Lady Celestia. An unexpected boldness rises in Celestia. Then, why don't you start learning now? She offers softly. Count Rusbert Tristan pauses, his amber eyes wide with surprise. What? He asks, completely caught off guard. A serene smile graces Celestia's lips as she lifts her wine glass, demonstrating the proper way to hold it. Just like this, she explains, her voice a gentle guide. As she instructs him to make eye contact for a toast, Rusbert is struck by her sudden warmth. He wonders to himself why the air around his wife now feels so incredibly soft. Celestia takes a delicate sip of wine, a serene smile on her lips. She then breaks a piece of bread, demonstrating for her husband. Count Rusbert Tristan, caught off guard by her warmth, awkwardly copies her. They raise their glasses, the soft clink sealing a moment of unexpected harmony. Later, Rusbert stands in a sunlit courtyard, greeted warmly by his men. An associate named Patrick hands him a letter. As Rusbert reads, his expression hardens. It's a request from the second Prince Louis, demanding he appear in the arena. Rusbert's eyes narrow, his mind racing to decipher the prince's true intentions. Count Rusbert Tristan runs a hand through his dark hair, sighing in frustration. While the prince's summons is a nuisance, he knows he owes the man for providing information about his wife. Elsewhere, Celestia sits with her physician. The doctor notes that she looks much better today and informs her that Rusbert departed at dawn. A shadow passes over Celestia's face as she becomes serious. With a determined yet anxious gaze, she asks for an examination to see if her hope has begun. The doctor's expression becomes grave. He knows he can't hide the truth any longer. Lady Celestia, he begins slowly. Please stay calm. There is something I must tell you. The physician's expression is heavy with sorrow as he delivers the devastating news. He explains that Celestia's body is currently in a state where it is impossible for her to become a mother. The words strike her like a physical blow. Her purple eyes widen in disbelief, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek as she desperately asks if it's because of her age or perhaps some hidden condition. A chilling memory flashes through her mind. An ominous man named Dr. Hayden, a sly grin on his face as he gives her some sort of medicine. The terrible realization dawns, and she begins to tremble. As her current physician suggests they investigate the cause, Celestia collapses into a fit of ragged, panicked breaths, the crushing weight of the truth utterly breaking her. Her mind fractures into a storm of memories. How could this be? Flashes of tense dinners and bitter arguments fill her vision, followed by the one night she finally found courage with Rusbert. All her hard work, all her desperate schemes, was it all for nothing? The thought echoes in her mind, a cruel final blow. An image of them together cracks like fragile glass, and the world dissolves. As Celestia's strength gives out, The physician catches her, his voice filled with panic as he cries out her name. The doctor's words hang heavy in the air. He explains to a somber Celestia that helping her may be nearly impossible without knowing what kind of medicine Dr. Hayden prescribed. Her mind reels. The physician's voice is strained as he continues. No other doctor has seen these symptoms, and Hayden himself has vanished, leaving a fake address. Celestia pleads internally, her world blurring. The doctor then delivers the final, devastating truth. In her current physical state, even if her hope were to begin, she would almost certainly face heartbreak. A single, horrifying possibility echoes in the darkness of her mind, a heartbreaking loss. Celestia's vision blurs, the world fragmenting around her as the doctor's voice continues its relentless assault on her hope. She begs for it to stop, a silent cry catching in her throat. Please. The overwhelming dread consumes her, and the doctor's concerned face is the last thing she sees before the world falls away. Celestia's eyes snap open, tears already streaming down her cheeks as she gasps for air. She's in her bed, safe. It was only a dream. A soft voice asks if she is awake. Celestia's eyes flutter open, the blurry image of her maids giving way to the sight of the doctor sitting by her bed. His expression is one of deep regret as he offers a sincere apology for delivering such painful news. The fragile hope that it was all a bad dream shatters instantly. It wasn't. A tear escapes and traces a path down her temple. The realization crushes her. She desperately wished it was a dream. A choked sob escapes her lips as she clutches her nightgown, overwhelmed by despair. As the doctor and maids watch with grim sympathy, Celestia is consumed by a single, shattering thought. She might never be able to become a mother. With her purpose seemingly torn away, she feels she has no reason to keep going. Her mind spirals into a painful recollection of events. Count Rusbert had gone to such lengths to help her, and now it was all for nothing. She remembers his stark warning about that man, how he insisted the man's eyes were rotten. If only she had listened, they wouldn't have argued, and this heartbreak might have been avoided. The crushing regret returns. If she had only listened, she thinks, she never would have been harmed by that medicine. Because of that mistake, the future she dreamed of was shattered before it could even begin. Her deep sorrow twists into a burning rage directed at the man responsible. Tears of fury stream down her face as a single, overwhelming thought consumes her. She wants him erased from her world. She clutches her nightgown, trembling with hatred. Unseen by her, Count Rusbert stands just outside her room, his intense eyes fixed upon her through the glass. Tears stream down Celestia's face as she whispers a faint no, her hands twisting the sheets. A devastating realization hits her. It wasn't the doctors who did this. A fleeting, beautiful image fills her mind. She and Rusbert, beaming with joy as they hold a smiling baby. But the vision shatters, the infant slipping from her grasp into a dark void. The one who destroyed her hopes, she thinks, was herself. If she can never become a mother, she collapses, overcome, her voice a broken whisper. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. As a doctor and two maids look on with concern, Celestia's faint apologies fade into the sheets of her bed. The quiet sorrow of the room is suddenly shattered by the rowdy noise of a celebration. In a crowded tavern, wooden mugs slam together as a group of men erupts in a massive cheer. They welcome Count Rusbert Tristan, their captain, with wide smiles and raised drinks. One man declares it's just not a real celebration without him. Rusbert sits amongst them, his expression distant as he apologizes for his long absence. Another soldier simply notes it couldn't be helped, reminding him that, after all, he has a wife now. A soldier seated beside Count Rusbert Tristan asks if it's truly all right for him to be out tonight. Rusbert lifts his mug, a slight smile touching his lips. He explains that Celestia sent him off herself, telling him that he should value his own time as well. His men express their admiration, calling her a wonderful wife. One soldier watches him closely, thinking his captain looks happy. A fleeting memory surfaces of Rusbert in his armor, lost under a dark cloud of despair. The soldier smiles, relieved. It's good to see. He leans in, asking, Captain, how many days do you plan to stay this time? Count Rusbert Tristan considers the question, a thoughtful look crossing his features. His mind drifts, calculating a specific time frame based on a woman's monthly rhythm. About 1 week, he finally answers, his voice steady. He takes a long drink from his wooden mug, then his gaze hardens as he addresses his men. He informs them that their training begins tomorrow, and they should be prepared for its intensity. A soft memory of Celestia's kind words surfaces, her encouragement for him to value his own time still a mystery to him. A strange, knowing smile touches his lips. A rare, forgotten lightness settles over Count Rusbert Tristan as his hands clasp together on the table. It's been so long since he's felt this way. His gaze drifts toward the window, his amber eyes softening as he looks out into the night. The simple knowledge that he and Celestia exist under the same moon fills him with a profound and quiet happiness. Far away, seen through the bars of an ornate balcony gate, Celestia sleeps peacefully in her bed, completely unaware of her husband's tender, secret thoughts. Count Rusbert Tristan commands his soldiers in the dusty training yard, his voice sharp. "Focus. Watch each other's movements before you strike," he yells. The loud clap of wooden swords echoes as he expertly spars with his men, completely at ease. He pauses, a faint smile on his face as he reflects on his return. He supposes he has Celestia to thank for the final push he needed. The stuffy, noble life never suited him, but a vision of her, radiant and serene, fills his thoughts. And yet, Celestia is different. Count Rusbert Tristan remembers their final night as a beautiful time. Though they did not cross that final intimate line, he felt a bond with Celestia that ran deeper, reminiscent of their carefree days as children. Yet, the weight of his actions against her remains heavy on his conscience. He questions if his purpose, to help her continue the line, still matters now that she is free from her father's control. A single tear escapes his amber eye. No, he decides. Celestia must still desire a child herself, otherwise she would have refused him. His role remains unchanged, but a selfish wish begins to form. A vision of Celestia, serene and beautiful, fills Count Rusbert Tristan's thoughts. He aches to see her gentle purple eyes look at him with such warmth again. Suddenly, his old plans for vengeance feel hollow and unimportant. All that matters now is protecting her and making her life easier. He wonders if he should bring her to the military outpost, but immediately discards the notion. A life among rough mercenaries is no place for a duchess. Wiping a tear from his cheek, he realizes with startling clarity that there might be a simple solution. Perhaps he should just talk to her. Count Rusbert Tristan steels his resolve, convinced Celestia's greatest desire remains to become a mother. With his long campaigns, he feels he must fulfill her wish quickly. But at the military outpost, a soldier rushes to him with an urgent request from the front lines. Reading the plea for reinforcements, Rusbert's expression becomes grim as he accepts the call to duty. Meanwhile, in a dark, quiet room, Celestia lies frail in her bed. A doctor pleads with her to eat, warning that supplements alone are not enough. She turns away, a tear escaping her closed eye. "I don't want it," she whispers weakly, completely consumed by her sorrow. Celestia's hand trembles as it clutches the sheets, her mind consumed by a single, agonizing thought: she may never become a mother. Watching her, Dr. Williams' expression is heavy with concern. He reflects on how, since her collapse, she has withdrawn completely. She refuses every invitation, shutting herself away in her room. Even the chessboard, a game she once adored, sits untouched. He feels a deep sense of failure, believing Celestia won't turn to him now. He sighs, realizing with a heavy heart that she truly has no one left to rely on. Celestia's voice is a desperate whisper as she pleads with the doctor and maids, begging them not to tell Rusbert. If he finds out her body may no longer allow motherhood, she is certain he will leave her behind for good. She clutches the sheets, racked with regret. After asking her to eat, the doctor quietly leaves. The door clicks shut, sealing her in with her despair. Alone, Celestia collapses to the floor, her body trembling with sobs as a single thought echoes in her mind. Everything has become utterly pointless. Her world shatters like broken glass. Shattered memories flood Celestia's mind, each fragment a painful reminder of her desperate hope. She recalls doing everything possible to make her hope come true, meticulously managing her diet and sleep. Even Rusbert had been cooperative, a brief warmth that made her truly believe this time would be different. Now, huddled in her bed, that hope feels like a cruel fantasy. She has no idea when he will return, and the thought of facing him is unbearable. A dark resolve takes root in her heart. Before he gets back, this time, for sure, she will make everything stop. She rises from her bed, her movements slow but determined. She must write a letter, her farewell letter, and apologize to him for what she believes is her failure. Before he comes home, everything must be settled. Celestia stands before the window, her resolve hardening. The only way left to atone is to disappear from his life completely. But a memory cuts through the fog of her despair. Rusbert's voice. warm and close, telling her not to decide on her own. She remembers a gentler time when he said he wanted to know everything about her. His phantom voice tells her not to apologize, but the weight of what she believes is her failure is crushing. Tears stream down her face. "I'm sorry," she chokes out, collapsing to the floor. A broken apology escapes Celestia's lips as she weeps. She doesn't want Rusbert to know, to push her aside. A fractured heart wishes him away, yet her soul desperately begs him to come home now. She collapses, questioning why this is happening to her. Visions of past pain flicker through her mind, a lifetime of enduring hardship entirely on her own. But now, she can't take it anymore. In a cruel twist of fate, the man she dreaded seeing is the only one she yearns for, silently pleading for him to come back to her. A desperate, silent plea echoes in the darkness of Celestia's mind. Tears stream down her face as she stares at her trembling hands, wondering how she became such a pathetic, fragile creature. Her last bit of strength gives way, and she collapses onto the cold floor, whispering his name in utter despair. Just then, a horse arrives at the manor. Count Rusbert Tristan gazes at the building, thinking about the sudden mission he was on. Fortunately for him, he managed to return home much sooner than anyone expected. And that wraps up this part. If you watch till the end, you're a legend, and I truly appreciate you. These videos take late nights, focus, and passion to create, so knowing you're here makes it all worth it. If you enjoyed the ride, love the drama, or just live for epic manhwa like I do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell because the next dark twist, it's coming faster than you think.